Chapter 1. Rebirth. Beep, beep, beep. What? What's that sound ringing in my head? Hiro mumbled in a soft voice. Is it the chime of the bells of the heaven? He mumbled while trying to figure out the identity of the sound. At first it sounded like the chimes of bells, but as he continued to listen further, the sound started to become rather annoying. Arg! Stop it already. Hiro woke up to the sounds of the alarm clock. In a state of sleep deprivation, he found himself in a room which seemed like it belonged to a child. Am I not dead yet? He mumbled in disbelief while looking at his surrounding. Everything around him was rather familiar and strange at the same time. In front of him, the wall was decorated by posters of iconic football players. Portraits of Pele, Maradona, Inisa, Javi, Hana, Jinji Kagawa, Kurosaki Miura were among the posters. But what stood out the most among those posters was the two posters which were bigger than the rest. The two posters were pasted side by side, each of them flaunting their Ballon d'Or. One was the picture of Christian Romero in Real Madrid's jersey, while the other was the picture of Andreas Messi in Barcelona's jersey. Even when I want to die, I can't stop thinking of football, huh? While looking at the poster in front of him, he mumbled while revealing a gentle smile. Whatever. I'm sure it must be a dream. It must be a flashback of the past. Yeah, it must be a flashback that I'm witnessing before I leave this world. Reassuring himself that he was just having flashbacks of the past, he closed his eyes, awaiting for his consciousness to fade away. He kept his eyes closed and patiently waited for his consciousness to fade away. Tick, tick, tick. The clock continued to tick, but his consciousness wasn't fading. In fact, it didn't seem like it would fade anytime sooner. Huh? What's happening? Why is my consciousness not fading away? He mumbled with a slight irritation. I'm sure that I died. So why is my consciousness still not fading away? Just like Hiro had mentioned, he indeed had already died. He died after committing suicide. At the age of 27, when his last hope of becoming a professional football player was shattered by the jealousy of some rowdy teenagers, he had committed suicide by walking in front of the moving truck. Hiro, who used to love football more than anything else from his early childhood, was considered a genius of football. From an early age, he showed great interest in football. And to back his interest, he was exceptionally gifted as well. His father, a football enthusiast, used to have lots of items related to football in their home. He collected every World Cup ball, various jerseys, and posters of great footballers. Even his interest in football started when his father was playing with him. At the age of 1, his father playfully tossed a football towards him. Even though he couldn't kick the ball because he hadn't learned to walk yet, he headed the ball with his head while walking on his 4 legs. That act shocked his father and made him smile. He jokingly said that he would be the greatest footballer in the planet. And he continued to toss the ball towards him, and every time he tossed the ball towards him, he would head the ball towards his father. Seeing him only heading the ball, his father started to teach him how to kick the ball. Lost in his enthusiasm, his father forgot that his son was still a kid who hadn't learnt to walk yet. However, he would still try to kick the ball with his feet. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't kick the ball. And as he grew older, his interest in football only deepened. Wherever he went, he carried his football. Even a stray bottle that was left stranded on the road looked like a football from his perspective. He would kick the bottle with acute precision into the garbage bin, while imaging himself taking a free kick for the country at the World Cup. Witnessing his enthusiasm, his father assumed that he would grow up to be a great footballer one day. And he sure did live up to his expectations until something bad happened to him. His father, being a football enthusiast himself, provided him with everything he needed to train himself. However, every time his father would take him to buy a new jersey or boot, his mother would scold them both. After all, they belonged to a middle-class family, and lower middle-class family to be more precise. The money his parents earned were barely enough to cover the rent and groceries. So football was a luxury to them. However, his father would still save some money by skipping his meals and transportation fee to fulfill his wishes. The collection of football antiques he held dear was something his father was proud of and had collected during his younger days, before his birth. His father used to have enough money to fulfill his hobby before his birth. But after his birth, everything changed in the family. The expenses shot up and the situation got even more tight. But his father never blamed him. Instead, he gave up on his hobby of collecting football items. He gave up on his hobby of watching football on the stadium. In fact, he even gave up on watching football on television. Instead, he started to work longer hours and often worked overtime. However, he would still make time for him and teach him how to play football. His father himself used to be a footballer, although he never made it to pro because of his lack of talent. Still, he gave his all and tried to make it pro with all his might. Unlike his father, Hiro showed great potential from his early days. Even when playing with the kids his age in elementary school, he used to easily dribble past every player on the field. Whenever he played, there used to be crowds of spectators to cheer him. His ball awareness, his skill, his pace, his handling, his passing, his dribbling, his first touch, everything was top-notch. Watching him play was similar to that of watching a god play football. And because of that exact same reason, he used to be called by various nicknames in his early years. Some of those nicknames included Alien, Spider-Man, Genius, and most prominently he was referred to as the Little God. But all of that changed when he tore his ligaments during his middle school tournament. The injury was a serious one, which could most probably never heal. The doctor warned him that he could never play football again when he tore his ligament at the age of 13. Devastated by the news, he wept like a kid. He felt as if the sky had fallen upon him when the doctor mentioned he could never play football again. His parents begged the doctor to come up with some kind of solutions to let him continue playing football. The doctor, giving in to their tears, suggested a surgery. However, the success rate of that surgery was less than 10%, and the surgery costed hella a lot. It was more than they could afford. Even if they saved for more than 2 or 3 years, they wouldn't still be able to afford the cost of the surgery. But despite that, they took several loans from several banks. And even when that wasn't enough, they took loans from vicious loan sharks to cover the expense for the surgery, just to keep his dream alive. After collecting enough money for surgery, he went a surgery to heal his legs. The operation lasted for more than 6 hours. But still, the surgery was a failure. They couldn't cure him completely. However, they cured him enough to let him continue to play football. After that surgery, he underwent several rehabilitation therapy to heal his legs. Finally, after a whole year of rehabilitation, he could finally play football once again. However, after that injury, he could never be the same again. Although his spatial awareness and creativity was still top-notch, his body couldn't move the way he wanted it to move. It felt as if he had lost meaning to his life. The same crowds of spectators who used to bombard the sidelines and praise him for his plays booed him and deemed him as a failure after his terrible performances. As the time passed, the crowds dissipated. Less and less people came to watch him play. As much bad as he felt, he also felt relieved upon the decrease in the number of crowds. Less crowds meant lesser criticism. He knew that it wasn't the right type of mindset to make it to pro, but he still couldn't help himself. After all, their harsh criticism pierced his heart like a sharp knife and distracted him. The same teammates who used to sing his praise turned against him after he lost his abilities. They started to ignore him and taunt him. Although he paid no attention towards their taunts, he couldn't completely ignore it either. While enduring harsh criticism from everyone, he relentlessly trained himself while keeping his dreams of making pro alive. Chapter 2. 2014 World Cup. Even after more than an hour, he couldn't feel his consciousness fading away. Golo all. The sudden sound of goals startled him. He startlingly opened his eyes. The sound came from the room above him. Even after waiting for more than an hour for his consciousness to fade away, everything felt so real to him. Neither was vision getting clouded, nor was his body disintegrating. He could vividly feel everything around him. Running his fingers through his face, he noticed something odd. Why is my skin so smooth? And why do I feel that I've shrunken in size? As he ran his fingers through his face, several questions popped up in his mind. The room was dimly lit by the table lamp beside his bed. Nothing was making sense to him. But just to be sure if it wasn't a dream, he pinched his cheek. Ow, well, damn, that hurt. He screamed in pain. After pinching himself, he could tell that he wasn't dreaming, and neither was he dead. He then extended his arms to investigate why it felt so small. His hands were that of a child, soft and smooth. Harry, why is my hand so small? Is it even my own hands? In disbelief, he tried to wiggle his fingers. They moved exactly the way he wanted it to move. Huh? Don't tell me. He vigorously pulled the blanket aside and jumped out of the bed. He then ran towards the cupboard. As he approached the cupboard mirror, an image of a child became vivid in the mirror. Black eyes, short and dark curly black hair which curled like a noodle, and with a red strawberry lips and puffy cheeks, he was dressed in a Barcelona jersey. In disbelief, he ran his fingers through his face. The reflection in the mirror copied his exact same movements. Did I return back? His eyes wide open, his face forecasting an expression of shock. He couldn't believe that he had returned back to the past. As he continued to stare his image in the mirror, tears welled up in his eyes. And as the tears accumulated, he could no longer hold them back. The tears fell down through his eyes like a sudden burst of monsoon rainfall. He continued to weep like a kid in front of the mirror. After his tears started to dissipate, he began to wipe off the tears from his face. While his eyes were full of tears, his face revealed a smile. He was overjoyed to return back alive. After some time, when he could finally regain his composure, he started to look for his phone. If he remembered correctly, then he would have put it in the drawer of the table beside his bed. He walked towards the table lamp and pulled the drawer. In his drawer there was a memo and a mobile phone. I was right, it was here indeed. He whispered in a soft voice. He grabbed his phone and tried to turn on his phone. A picture of Captain Tsubasa from the famous anime Captain Tsubasa appeared on his home screen. Looking at his wallpaper, he chuckled. He looked at the date, and it was July 14th, 2014. If it's 2014, then I must be 5 years old. He contemplated while looking at the date. Wait, July 14th? Am I missing something? Something felt like missing after looking at the date. As if he was forgetting something. He kept on trying to remember what he was forgetting. World Cup? World Cup final. He deliriously exclaimed. July 14th, 2014 was the date of the World Cup final when Argentina and Germany would face each other. After remembering what he had forgotten, he stormed outside his room and rushed towards the living room. As he reached the living room, There on the couch a person was sitting in front of the TV, holding a can of beer in his hand. Seeing the person, he stopped his movement. He knew who that person was. He was extremely familiar with the person. You finally came? The man in front of him spoke. He was caught off guard by his speech. Unable to respond, he stood frozen in front of the man with eyes full of tears. What happened? Are you all right? The man inquired with a worried face. The lights of the room was turned off, and the only light which lit the whole place was the blue rays coming out of the television. Upon seeing his eyes full of tears, the man rushed towards him. He then grabbed his little hands and began to wipe the tears of his face. Did you have some kind of nightmare? The man exclaimed while gently wiping the tears off his face. He spoke nothing and continued to weep like a kid. He couldn't stop himself from crying. After all, it had been so long since he last heard his voice. As he lifted his face, he could vividly notice the man with black eyes and dark black hair. His face was still the same as he once remembered. Chiseled jawline, sharp nose, few strands of tiny hair across his jaw, and beneath his nose provided him a handsome manly appearance. His body constitution was neither obese nor slim. With an ideal body weight, he had vividly defined muscles. The man was none other than his father, who he had lost when was age 16. After 11 whole years, he was finally seeing him once again for the first time. Seeing his gentle face, he could no longer hold himself. He threw himself in his arms and hugged him tightly. His father, confused by his unusual behavior, hugged him regardless. It's all right. It's all right, he exclaimed while gently stroking his back. They remained in that position for a long time. Neither Hiro nor his father Takashi could let go of each other. Do you not want to watch the World Cup? Takashi whispered. He finally remembered that the alarm clock which woke him up was set by him to wake up himself to watch the World Cup final together with his father. He then gently pulled out his arms and distanced himself from his father. And as he faced his father once again, he revealed a wry smile and spoke. Argentina's gonna win for sure. You bet. Germany's gonna win for sure. His father replied back with a smile. Hiro knew that Germany was gonna win, but still at that time, he had been supporting Argentina, and his father was supporting Germany. After an goalless 90 minutes, the game had gone into extra time. Even the first half of the extra time was goalless, and the game had gone into the second half of extra time by the time he arrived at the living room. With score 0-0, the score was tied until 115 minutes. He knew that at 117 minutes, Mario Götze was going to score the winning goal for Germany, but he kept his mouth shut regardless. He looked at his father. His face was overjoyed with happiness. He could vividly feel his ecstasy. Go, 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 golo. His father roared in ecstasy. Few other voices from the surrounding reverberated along with his cheers. At second half of the extra time, at 117 minute, Mario Götze scored the winning goal for Germany, leading his nation to victory. After that goal, Argentina couldn't trail Germany. The final score of the match was Argentina 0 and Germany 1. Germany won the World Cup with that single goal, leaving every Andreas Messi fan disappointed. If it were any other moment, he would have been disappointed as well. In fact, he cried back then when Argentina lost the World Cup. But this time, the smile on his father's face meant a lot more to him than anything in the world. What did I say to you? Didn't I say that Germany would win the World Cup? Ha ha. His father started to laugh maniacally as Germany lifted the World Cup. He was so much overjoyed that he forgot that his son was a mere 5-year-old. Still the same, I see. No mercy for the opponents. Even if that opponent happens to be your own son. He contorted his face while looking at his father, disappointed. Just shut up and let me sleep. Another voice came from the master bedroom. The voice was filled with anger. As soon as he heard that voice, his father instantly shut his mouth. We should keep it quiet, otherwise your mother's gonna beat us both. Takashi whispered. The voice filled with anger belonged to his mother. Unlike the father and son duo, she had absolutely no interest in football. She was more on the practical side. All she wanted to do was earn enough money and live a decent life with her family. In fact, even in his previous life, she had always forced him to study well and become a doctor or a lawyer. However, his passion for football overshadowed her expectations of him. Despite his mother's countless nagging, he was hell-bent on being a professional football player. Chapter 3, Talent Copying System. Now that the final match of the World Cup had ended and he was lying in his bed, he couldn't sleep for some reason. And as much grateful as he was for being granted a second chance to see his family once again, his mind was focused on something else. While staring at the ceiling above his head, he started to wonder about the course of action he needed to perform moving forward. Previously, he gave his all to football and solely focused on his dream. The dream of representing his nation in World Cup, the dream of playing football professionally. But things didn't work out as he expected. Despite his brilliance, he struggled to make it to pro. The first major tragedy happened when he was age 13. In a middle school tournament match, he tore his ligament when an opponent player performed a rash tackle on him from behind him. His team was leading the game with a score of 2-0, and it was in 57 minutes of the match when he was sprinting the ball towards the goal. The opponent player couldn't trail him, and in desperation, he performed a sliding tackle on him from behind him. That tackle missed the ball, but it landed critically on his legs, which in turn costed him his legs. Recovering from that tackle wasn't an easy thing. He was bedridden for months, and it took him more than 6 months to get back on his feet. And it took yet another month to finally walk on his feet. After a year when he could finally run and was back on the pitch, he couldn't play the way he used to play. He was more of a fantasista who could score and assist at the same time. And what made his plays more effective was his fast pace and insane ball control. Every time when he stretched his legs to shoot the ball after the injury, he felt excruciating pain in his legs. His legs were capable of shooting the ball at an insane speed of 65 miles per hour, which was even better than some professionals. But after that injury, he could never hit the ball with that power once again. Unable to perform according to his will, he started to change his play style. Before, he was more of a versatile offensive player who could play both as a forward and as a midfielder. But after that injury, he changed his play style to that of a poacher. Even after the injury, his finishing was still top-notch. He could shoot accurately, but even so his shot lacked power. He continued to train himself into a striker who waited for the pass in front of the opponent's goal. He couldn't run back deep and fall back to take the ball as he once used to. He continued to thrive in that position, but his plays lacked creativity and his shot lacked power, hence he couldn't perform well. He was just an average player who scored only tap-ins. And his approach was still fine until he reached adulthood. Unable to sign a pro deal, he had to work part-time if he wanted to continue playing football. While some of his friends were already professional and some had settled well in life, he was working part-time and playing football in a local league. As much as he wanted to deny, he was jealous of their success. How could he not be jealous? After all, he used to be way better than them before his injury. But now he was shadow of his former self. He was flat broke and his future looked extremely bleak. He was constantly juggling between his job and football. At some point in his life, he even thought of quitting football. But his passion for football was much more than his reason to quit. He continued to play football despite the struggles. And finally, at the age of 27, his perseverance was bearing fruit as one of the scouts of a struggling team in the 4th League took notice of him. They were fighting a battle of relegation. If they were to be relegated, they would have to fall out of the professional league. Thus, in desperation, the team decided to take a gamble and wanted to sign him. Finally, when his dream of making the pro was about to get fulfilled, tragedy struck him once again. Unable to sign the pro contract, some of the teenagers in his local team got jealous of his success. Out of jealousy, they pushed him off the staircase. Falling from the staircase, he broke his tibia, leg bone. As he hit his head upon the fall, he lost his consciousness. And when he regained back his consciousness, he found himself in a hospital bed. His leg was covered in plaster of Paris. The injury which he had picked up when he was young escalated further after that fall. Due to fractured bone, he missed the opportunity to be signed by a professional team. And to make matter even worse, the doctor informed him that he could never play football once again. The sky fell upon him as he listened to the doctor. He stumbled and fell down, unable to handle the truth. He was devastated by the news of never being able to play football again. At the age of 27, he lost everything. He had neither money nor could he play football again. He went back to live with his mother. His mother, who was already a single mother, struggled to feed him. Witnessing the struggles of his mother, he felt even more miserable. And as the time passed, he started to develop symptoms of depression. Suicidal thoughts started to appear in his mind. And finally, succumbing to his suicidal thoughts, he took his own life walking in front of the moving truck. As the truck hit him, he thought that he could finally escape from his struggle and rest in peace. Or so he thought, but how wrong he was. Instead of a peaceful death, he returned back to the time when he was still 5 years old. Should I study well and become a doctor or lawyer and fulfill my mother's wish? Or should I use the knowledge of the future and bet money on the winning teams and earn money? Hiro contemplated. I don't want to go through that same tragedy once again, he whispered, clenching his chest. The tragic experience he had gone through in his previous life caused an intense pain in his heart whenever he remembered of the day he lost his everything. No matter how much he tried to reason, he couldn't stop himself from thinking about football. Even after somehow he had got a second chance in life, he still wanted to continue playing football. He couldn't give up on his dream. But what if that tragedy repeats again? He mumbled, doubting his choice. If I strengthen myself physically, I might prevent that tragedy from happening once again. After all, the reason that I injured myself before was because of my weak physique. I focused too much on football that I ignored my physicality. If I were a little more sturdy back then, I wouldn't have injured myself. He frowned. Whatever, I'll play football once again. And this time I'll prepare myself thoroughly. I won't be beaten by some lame-ass injury. I'll give my all, train myself every day and night. Just wait and watch. I'll be the greatest player alive. Unable to quit football, he raised his hands and clenched them tightly. Steeling his resolve, he was determined to make it to pro. Ding. The host has fulfilled the requirements for the Awakening of the Talent Copying System, Chapter 4, Potential, SSS. Upon hearing the unknown voice, he jumped out of the bed. He was startled by the unknown voice. The voice resembled that of the voice of a female. Who's there? Horrified by the unknown voice, he began to shake his head vigorously in search of the source of sound. System initializing. Please wait for some moment. System initializing? What bullshit are you spouting? Just freaking show yourself. Hiro exasperated. Unable to find a single soul in his room, he wondered if he was hallucinating. Perhaps I'm getting a system like those protagonists in the web novels? He wondered while trying to figure out the source of the sound. Despite him not being a huge fan of web novel, he had heard countless stories about reincarnation from his friends. The stories where the protagonist would die and somehow miraculously come back to life. Upon reincarnating, they would gain a cheat-like ability or a system to make them stronger. I've already reincarnated, so it wouldn't be strange if I were to gain a system somehow. He mumbled while trying to soothe himself. As unreal as it seemed, he had already experienced the unreal feat of reincarnation. Hence, it wouldn't have been strange if he were to somehow get a system. Guessing that he had somehow attained a system, the horrified look on his face faded away and a smile formed on his face. The anticipation on his face escalated as he found the reason behind the unknown voice. Beep, beep, beep. Scanning for potential host. Host detected. Registering Takahashi Hiro as the new host. Adjusting the biometrics. Synchronizing the data. Just when will it end? He exasperated as the system was taking a lot of time to synchronize the data. Synchronization complete. Welcome to the talent copying system. Finally, it ended. He released a deep sigh. Please select a desired profession you wish to excel. A. Actor. B. Athlete. C. Lawyer. D. Doctor. E. Entrepreneur. F. Astronaut. The list stretched infinitely as it mentioned every profession available in the world. However, his priorities were fixed. He knew what he wanted. He couldn't care less about other professions, and he didn't need to think twice about his choice. Athlete. He yelled. The host has picked athlete as his desired profession. Please confirm your choice by saying confirm. NB. Once confirmed, the host cannot choose again. Confirm. He spoke without any hesitation. Confirming host's pick. Choice confirmed. Please select the category of athlete you wish to become. A. Footballer. B. Basketball player. C. Tennis player. D. Cricketer. E. Baseball player. Once again, the list stretched infinitely. The system was mentioning every possible sports available in the world. But this time, too, his priority was fixed. Footballer. He yelled once again. The host has picked football as his desired profession. Please confirm your pick by saying confirm. Confirm. Once again, he spoke without any hesitation. Performing deep scan. Scanning complete. As the system completed the scan, he felt a throbbing pain in his head. As if something was making its way towards his head, the excruciating pain intensified. Ay! He screamed in a muffled voice. Unable to withstand the pain, he fell down on the floor. He could neither move his body nor could scream for help. Huff, huff. He was breathing heavily and sweating profusely. After some time, the pain started to mitigate, and as the pain dissipated, he mustered some strength in his legs and tried to get up. His legs wobbled as he tried to rise. Please inspect your status. To inspect your stats, mention status window. STA status window. Even to speak 2 words, he needed to muster all his strength. As soon as he finished his sentence, a translucent holographic blue page appeared in front of him. At the right side, there was his current picture, and at the left side were his basic information. Beneath the basic information were mentioned his attributes. Basic information. Name, Takahashi Hiro. Age, 5 years old. Weight, 18 kilograms. Height, 3.5 feet. Potential, SSS. Attribute point, 0. Roulette tickets, 0. Skills, none. Title, Master of the Talent Copying System, Regressor, one who possesses ethereal talent. For detailed information about the title, click on the title. Let's do what it says to do. Hiro curiously clicked on the title Master of the Talent Copying System. Just as he did that, he got directed towards another page. Title, Master of the Talent Copying System. While this title is in effect, you can interact with the system and gain extra points by completing the mission designated by the system. So basically, each title comes with their respective title effect. I'll inspect the effects of other titles sometimes later. Right now, let's continue to observe my stats. He mumbled. Attributes. Physical, 2100s, grade, E+. Dribbling, 52 out of 100, grade, C+. Pace, 33 out of 100, grade, D+. Passing, 35/100, grade, D+. Shooting, 42/100, grade, C. Defending, 17/100, grade, E+. Mentality, 35/100, grade, D+. IQ, 70/100, grade, B. Overall grade, D. Note, the above stats are displayed in comparison to the professionals. Please open the tab below for a more detailed stat. Match stat. Goals, 0. Assists, 0. Dribbles, 0. Shot on target, 0. Shot off target, 0. Distance covered, 0. Passes completed, 0. Successful tackle, 0. Clean sheet, 0. Note, above stats are only accumulated through professional matches. So it's basically like my in-game statistics, huh? He exclaimed. Since he hadn't played any professional matches, his match stat attributes were all filled with 0. Daily mission, locked. Quest, locked. System store, locked. System roulette, locked. Individual achievement, locked. Arg. Let's just stop for now and continue later. It's already getting too late. He couldn't handle all the information at once and thus called it a day. He reached towards his pocket and took out his phone. It was already 3:15 a.m. Damn, I should probably sleep now. If mother somehow finds me awake at this hour, she'll probably smack the shit out of me, he exclaimed. Putting his phone in the drawer, he hit the bed. A lot of things happened to him that day. Firstly, he was miraculously reincarnated, and after that he even acquired a system. Every single thing which happened to him that day was ethereally unreal. Whilst in the bed, he was still wondering about the things which he had experienced. I need to inquire more about this system tomorrow, but for now let's sleep, he mumbled. As soon as he closed his eyes, he instantly fell asleep. He was too much exhausted by the day's events. Despite being a 5-year-old, his stats were insanely unbelievable. His dribbling stat was already on par with most of the semi-pro athlete, and his IQ was even better than most of the semi-pro athletes. The mere fact that he had an overall grade of D at the age of 5 was already shocking. But to make matters even more spicy, his potential was SSS grade. Even the world-famous athlete Lionel Christian Romero and Andreas Messi had a potential of SS grade. In terms of potential, he far exceeded everybody present in the earth. Compared to his other stats, his physical and defending were lacking by a mile. But despite that, he could still upgrade his attributes with the help of the system. Even though he couldn't understand a lot of things, he had a rough idea about the things mentioned by the system. He could tell that he could become a professional by following the guidelines of the system. But what he didn't know was that he could become the greatest footballer to ever live with the help of the system. Here, Hiro. Huh? Who's calling me? He heard a voice while he was asleep. How long do you plan to sleep, Hiro? He tried to open his eyes. His vision was still blurry and he was still in a state of half asleep. As he tried to open his eyes, a figure of a lady with long brown hair and milky white skin became visible. However, the figure was blurry and he couldn't see clearly. Room covering his eyes. He was having trouble opening his eyes. Finally, after a little bit of struggle, he opened his eyes. There in front of him, his mother was yelling at him for oversleeping. Long brown hair with brown pupils, milky white skin with a mole above her upper lips, dressed in a red t-shirt and loose trousers, she was yelling at him. Despite the vivid anger in her face, her angelic appearance charmed him. Angel, he mumbled. Huh, what Angel? You pesky brat, wake up, it's already time for school. She yelled furiously. Still the same, I see. You and your furious temper. But I miss that a lot, he thought while looking at her angry face. Now get up and freshen up. She left towards the kitchen after waking him up. Previously he hated her nagging, but this time around he was happy to listen to her nagging once again. Unable to endure her nagging, he had yelled her in his previous life. And after that incident, she never nagged him again. Chapter 5, First Quest. Pulling aside the blanket, he hopped out of his bed. He raised his arms and began to stretch his body. As he stretched his body, few joints in his body made a popping sound. After stretching his body, he started to fold his blanket and make his bed. He was mandatorily required to make his bed every morning or else he'd have to endure the wrath of his mother. Hiro, hurry up, his mother yelled, calling out for him as soon as he finished making his bed. Coming, Mom, he replied back. He then began to walk towards the kitchen. You shouldn't keep him awake till late night. It's all your fault that he's going to be late for school. As he walked inside the kitchen, he found his mother yelling at his father. His father was as docile as a lamb. He couldn't do anything. He simply sat at the dining table, flipping through his newspaper, listening to her nagging. Oh, you're here. Come and have breakfast. His father spoke while revealing a gentle smile. Hiro returned back the smile. Words couldn't express how grateful he was to experience that moment with his family once again. After losing his father in his previous life, his relationship with his mother soured over time. While his mother kept nagging him to focus on his study, he kept rebelling against her decision. Despite knowing that she only meant well for him, he couldn't see through her real feelings. He kept on thinking that even she didn't have any faith in him that he could make it to pro. He took her well wishes negatively and rebelled against her. Only after witnessing her struggles, he realized the meaning behind her nagging. After he injured his legs, she was the only one who provided for him. She was the only one who stayed beside his bed when he was bedridden in hospital. And for his whole life he hated her because of his prideful attitude. To prove her wrong, to prove everyone wrong, he struggled miserably, taking countless part-time jobs, training in the morning and training later in the night when he was all by himself. He barely slept for 3-4 hours. Did you brush your teeth, Hiro? She called out for him while he was spacing out. Uh-huh. No, I've not, brew. Thwack. Before he could complete his sentence, his mother smacked him on his head. Ow, why did you do that? Turning his head towards her, he complained. But he couldn't finish his sentence upon witnessing his mother's angry face. She was fuming. After living alone for so many years, he forgot that he needed to brush his teeth before having breakfast. While living alone, he didn't have any proper eating schedule. Sometimes he'd eat breakfast at 12, and sometimes he'd be very busy that he'd forget to eat. Forgetting to brush before having breakfast wasn't the only thing he had forgotten. He even forgot about the short temper of his mother. She would beat him even if he were a child whenever he made mistakes. Rules were absolute if he wanted to live in her home. Looking at his mother's angry face, he quickly realized his mistake. He then hopped out of the chair and stormed towards the restroom. "You better hurry up. If we get late for school, you're in for another beating," she yelled furiously as he ran towards the bathroom. It didn't take him long to brush his teeth. He barely avoided her beating. He then hurriedly stuffed the breakfast prepared by his mother. It was already 7:30 a.m. by the time he had finished his breakfast, and he was required to reach the school by 8 a.m. As he was still in kindergarten, he didn't require to wear any proper uniform. Due to embarrassment, he quickly got dressed before his mother could help him to dress. Despite his appearance being that of a 5-year-old at the present, he was still a 27-year-old grown-up from inside. Just when he was about to leave the house, his father stopped him. "You didn't forget about the kids' football tournament that's going to be held in the Sakura futsal later in the evening, did you?" his father inquired. The local football club had organized a tournament for the kids of the age 5-8 to promote football in their locality. Basically, it was designed as a sort of entertainment event for the local spectators. While up front, it was a charity event to promote football. But behind, the reason for organizing the event was to advertise their football club to attract better investors and to increase their fan base. Simply speaking, it was a marketing stunt. The tournament was just like any other regular youth tryouts. The kids of the age 5-8 could show up in teams or show up alone. Those who showed up on teams didn't require to form new teams, while those who showed up alone were paired up with other kids and a team was formed. "I know it, Dad, but still thanks for reminding me again." He spoke confidently, even though he was still lying about remembering the event. He had completely forgotten about the tournament. It was the first time when he played competitively against other kids. Also, it was the beginning of his football journey. "It's good that you know. I'll pick you up at 3 later in the evening and we'll go together," his father exclaimed. "Okay, but don't you have work today? I've taken a day off to see you play today. How can I miss my son's debut match?" his father replied enthusiastically. He was baffled by his father's response. As much as he remembered, he didn't attend this tournament previously. In fact, it was his mother who had accompanied him to the futsal. But something was different in the present moment. His father worked in a construction company and usually worked overtime. Except the occasional day offs, Hiro couldn't even see his face until morning in any normal day due to his work. But despite being extremely busy, his father would still make time for him, occasionally. He would occasionally come to see his matches. "You're not joking, right?" Hiro bewilderingly replied. "No, I'm not joking. I'll pick you up later from the school," Takashi reassured Hiro. "Hurry up, Hiro, or else we'll be late for the school," his mother called out for him. Soon in her bicycle, they reached the school. In the front gate, a young lady greeted them. "Hello, Mrs. Takahashi. How are you?" The young lady greeted them at the entrance of the kindergarten. The young lady was dressed in a light pink shirt and azure blue trousers. Her jet black hair was tied by a scrunchie in a ponytail. Lip gloss applied in her lips gave it a pinkish appearance. And moreover, due to the smell of perfume, she smelled like fragrant roses. Hiro couldn't stop himself from staring at the young lady in front of him. His cheeks turned red as she looked at him with a smile. "Hello, Misaki-sensei. I'm doing fine. How about you?" his mother greeted back. The young lady was none other than his homeroom teacher. Due to her young appearance, everybody would mistook her age as a teenager. However, she was already in her mid-20s. And Hiro himself, being a 27-year-old from inside, couldn't help himself from getting attracted towards her. "Shall we head inside, Hiro?" she exclaimed with a smile after finishing her conversation with his mother. However, he was lost in his imagination and was staring blankly at her. Hiro, as he regained his composure, he found her hand stretched towards him. She extended her hands to grab his. He then extended his hands and grabbed hers. While holding hands, they headed inside. His mother bid him farewell and left for her work. She worked in an old age care center as a nurse. Chatter, chatter, chatter. As he entered the room, he heard loud chatters of kids. Some crying, some laughing, some fighting. It was more like a fish market than a classroom. WTF? Arg. Somebody please take me out of here. Save me. Unable to handle the noise, he started to beg for help in his mind. The only thing he wished as he entered the classroom was to leave the classroom ASAP. The classroom was one heck of a hellish torture place for him. In that whole room, he was the only one who wasn't making any noise. Unable to handle the noise, he covered his ears. Ding. Quest unlocked. Please open the status window for details regarding the quest. He heard the sound of the system as he closed his ears. What quest? He mumbled. Status window. He whispered. Quest title, Survive the Classroom. Quest info, avoid the distracting sounds and focus on the words of the teacher. Rewards for quest completion, new skill focus. Penalty, none. Huh? Focus on teacher's words in this noisy environment? Are you kidding me? He exasperated upon seeing the quest of the system. The quest was near to impossible. It was simply impossible to focus on teacher's words in that hellish classroom. Chapter 6. Familiar foe. Accepting the quest, he tried to focus on teacher's words. With utmost concentration, he stared at his teacher. However, every time he tried to concentrate on her words, the noise from the background would somehow distract him. Maybe it's because I'm so far away from her that's why I'm not able to listen to her, he mumbled. While his teacher was reading a children's book, he raised his arm. Yes, Hiro? How may I help you? The teacher exclaimed, looking at his raised arms. In Japan, students are taught to raise their hands up before speaking or calling out for teachers to ask questions so as not to disturb them while teaching. Sensei, I want to sit in the front row to hear you better, he exclaimed. His chances of hearing her words were much better in the front row than from his current place. Hearing his response, the teacher gave him a perplexing look. Previously, Hiro used to be one of those few troublemakers of the class. He would fold papers into the shape of balls and kick them, celebrating as if he scored in a World Cup or Champions League final whenever he scored a goal against his classmates. And he rarely paid any attention towards his studies and teachers' lectures. Around the time when she would be teaching, he would be napping in his desk. Are you sure, Hiro? Or are you not feeling well? She replied with a concerned look on her face. Thank you for your concern, Sensei, but I'm all right. I just want to listen to the story you're reading a little better, he replied back without any hesitation. However, from inside, he was extremely nervous. After all, he himself knew the reason behind her baffled look. The teacher took notice of his sincerity and called him forward. She then exchanged his seat with one of the students in the front row. After that, she continued to read the children's book. Finally, he was able to hear her better, although he could still hear the chatters of the kids behind him. However, with some concentration, he could focus on her words without being distracted, which is exactly what he did. He kept his eyes fixated at her lips so as not to miss her words. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the quest. New skill focus is rewarded for the completion of the quest. Please check your status window for more info regarding the skill. Yes. Finally, I completed the quest. He was celebrating like crazy inside his mind upon completing the quest. However, he didn't show any emotions outwardly and maintained a poker face as if he was listening attentively. Status window. He mumbled. Focus. Skill description. When using this skill, the user can immerse himself completely in any kind of task he's undertaking, negating any kind of distractions. Skill duration, 10 minutes. Skill CD, 24 hours. Note, the skill CD can be lowered as you upgrade your grades and skill duration can be increased respectively as well. Damn, such an OP skill. Doesn't it mean that I can negate any kind of distractions when using this skill? I can use it to negate the oppressive cheers of rival fans, and I can even use it to negate the negative taunts of the opponents. If Andreas Messi had this skill in 2015 Copa America, then he wouldn't have missed his penalty. He chuckled. Hiro, is everything all right? The teacher questioned him, witnessing his wry smile. Without even realizing he was smiling like a maniac. Sorry, teacher. I'm all right. He apologized for his behavior while trying to regain his composure. Ding, dong. The bell of the school rang. He was so focused on the task that he didn't even realize how fast the time flew by. Seems like this much for today. I'll see you tomorrow, the teacher exclaimed. Thank you, Sensei. The students replied in unison. Although they were still kids, they were taught to appreciate their teachers since their childhood. Hiro was packing his bags before even the teacher finished her sentence. As he carried the bag, she bewilderingly looked at him. Where are you going, Hiro? You have cleaning duty today. Don't you remember? The teacher exclaimed while collecting her books. I'm on cleaning duty today? Why does it have to be today? He frowned. In Japan, the schools don't hire any janitors for cleaning duty. Instead, the students are required to clean their classrooms by themselves. In order to teach the students humility and discipline, the school makes the student clean their own respective classrooms and hallways. He clearly forgot that he was on cleaning duty. Another batch of kids who didn't have cleaning duty packed their bags. However, even after packing the bags, they didn't leave the classroom. They were required to wait for their parents to show up before they could head home. Everyone who were on cleaning duty grabbed their respective mops, brooms, and other tools required for cleaning. He remembered that he previously cleaned the blackboard in order to complete his cleaning duty so that he can leave quickly. While the kids whose parents didn't show up stayed late to help in cleaning. Hiro glanced at the duster in front of the teacher's desk. Satoshi, a snotty kid, was about to pick the duster. Worried that he'd get the duster before him, he ran towards the duster. Just before Satoshi's hand reached the duster, he snatched the duster from him with lightning speed. I could even outrun Usain Bolt. Ha ha. He laughed maniacally. Is something wrong with his mind? Satoshi gave him a perplexing look. Not only Satoshi, but everyone in his classroom looked at him as if he had gone crazy. He looked around him, and to save himself from embarrassment, he calmly exclaimed, please excuse my behavior. He spoke in a confident tone as if nothing ever happened in the first place. He then went directly towards the blackboard without looking at anybody and began to clean the blackboard. Phew, that was close. It didn't take him long to clean the blackboard, and by the time he finished his cleaning, his father had arrived as well. Hiro, Takahashi Hiro. The teacher called his name. Yes, ma'am. He yelled. Your dad is here. You can go home if you've finished your cleaning duty, she exclaimed. He then placed the duster at the teacher's drawer and carried his bag. If he went directly towards the futsal, he could still make it for the tournament in time. but he didn't have his cleats with him. So he needed to go back home in order to fetch his cleats. Arg, I should have brought my boots with me. He frowned. As he walked in front of the entrance, he noticed his father carrying a bag. What's that, Dad? He questioned. I knew that you'd forget your boots, so I brought it with me. He replied with a smile. Hiro returned back the smile. Because of that simple gesture of his dad, he could make it to the tournament in time, and he didn't have to go back to home to fetch his boots. Thank you, Daddy. Grateful for his gesture, he thanked his father while revealing a big warm smile. He hopped onto his father's bicycle, and both of them headed towards the futsal. The futsal was about 20 minutes away from the school. As they reached the futsal at the front gate, he saw his mother waiting for them. What took you so long? The game's about to begin, she exclaimed with a worried face. They hurriedly ran towards the field and barely reached the futsal in time. While the coaches were assembling the team, he was tying his boots. Flexing his Andreas Messi jersey, he walked towards the field. But nobody even took notice of him except his parents who were cheering loudly for him. At the center of the pitch, many kids were gathered in a circle. Different kids dressed in different jerseys. Most of them were dressed in Andreas Messi and Christian Romero jersey, while there were some of them who were dressed in the jersey of national team and other clubs. He looked extremely average. That's why nobody took notice of him. While most of the anonymous kids who showed up alone were gathered in the middle, the kids who showed up in teams were far in the right corner and left corner. However, among those numerous teams, one team stood out than the rest. Every member of that team was dressed in pinkish jersey, and most of the kids in that team looked older than the rest of the kids who showed up for the tournament. Behind their backs were huge letters which read Sakura FC Youth Club. They were the team of the organizer. Their keeper was almost 4 feet tall. Compared to the rest of the kid, he was extremely tall. Even the goalpost was barely 4.5 feet tall and 5 feet wide. He could instantly recognize the keeper of the Sakura FC Youth Club. So we meet once again, huh? Kurosawa Taki. He mumbled looking at him. He could have never forgotten his face. After all, that keeper in front of him was the future keeper of the national team. And because of him previously, he was denied many goals. Even when the coach in front of him was assembling the team, his eyes were fixated on that keeper. Just you wait. I'm going to humiliate you so much that you'll beg me to have mercy. Chapter 7. Coming from the bench. Oh, you kid with curly hair. Are you paying any attention? A middle-aged man who stood in the middle of the center half-dressed in a tracksuit called out for him. However, he was extremely distracted by the sight of Kurosawa Taki that he couldn't hear the voice of the middle-aged man. Seeing him distracted, a kid who stood beside him tapped his shoulder. Yes, sir. He stammered, coming back to his senses. Try not to get too much distracted. Pay attention now. I'm going to arrange the teams. The man shrugged his behavior. That middle-aged man was one of the few coaches signed by the organizer for the event. Just like him, there were 3 more coaches signed for the event standing beside him. The man then started to inquire the kids about the position they liked to play. Most of the kids replied forward, while only few replied defense. Almost nobody except 2 kids exclaimed that they could play keeper. Witnessing the response of the kids, the man smacked his head in disappointment. Since most of the kids preferred to play forward, the man started to sort the kids by his own will. Luckily, Hiro got to play as a midfielder. However, most of the kids who couldn't play in their desired position rebelled against his decision and started to create a ruckus. They were dissatisfied by the coach's decision. Those who are dissatisfied by my decision can leave, he yelled in fury. After seeing his angry face, nobody dared to complain a single word. While there were still some kids who left after his announcement, most of the kids remained. And because of that, the parents of the kids who left made their way towards the field to complain about the coach's behavior. To minimize the ruckus, the organizer stepped in. We apologize for his behavior. To appease the irritated parents, the organizer started to apologize. However, the man who turned away those kids didn't say a single word. He sternly believed in his judgment and refused to apologize. Seeing the man's unwillingness to bow down, the organizer pleaded the coach to take in those kids as reserves. And just like that, a situation was prevented. After that, the other 3 coaches hired by the organizer started to pick their respective players and created a team of 8. After the 4 coaches picked their respective players, 4 teams of 8 starting players were formed, and every other remaining player was used as a substitute. Due to Hiro's earlier behavior, he was placed in the reserve as well. Finally, the team was allocated as such, 4 teams made up of individual player who showed up alone and 4 teams of the players who showed up in teams. The individual players who showed up alone were at a disadvantage than those who showed up in teams. The tournament was played in a knockout style. The winning team would move forward while the losing team would go home. A random lottery was drawn to divide the 8 teams in 2 groups, Group A and Group B. Group A contained 4 teams, and Group B contained 4 as well. Hiro was placed in the team of the middle-aged coach. The names of the 4 teams formed by the individual players were named as such: Team 1, Team 2, Team 3, and Team 4. However, the other 4 teams were Sakura FC Youth Club, Little Boys Youth Club, Tokushima City FC Youth Club, and Nakamura FC Youth Club. As suggested by their names, all 4 of those clubs were the youth club of reputed football club who played professionally. The result of the lottery came as such. Group A, Sakura FC Youth Club, Nakamura FC Youth Club, Team 3 and Team 4. Group B, Little Boys Youth Club, Tokushima FC Youth Club, Team 1 and Team 2. Due to the group's composition, Hiro could only face Kurosawa Taki if his team made it to final. Kurosawa Taki was placed in Group A while Hiro was placed in Group B. The first match was played between the host team and Team 3. Just minutes after the whistle blew, the host team scored a goal. In another 5 minutes, the host scored a second goal. In another 7 minutes, the host scored a third goal. By the end of the first half, the host scored 4 goals against the opponent team. The player of the team 4 looked extremely tired and hopeless. Their eyes were screaming for help. Their eyes were telling the referee to stop the match. However, there was still another 20 minutes left. Since it was a children's game, the game was played in 20-10-20. First half was of 20 minutes, 10 minutes break, and second half was another 20 minutes. By the end of the full time, the score read as such: Sakura FC Youth Club 10, Team 3-0. It was an overwhelming victory for the host team. Similarly, Nakamura FC completely obliterated the Team 4 as well. They won 7-1 against Team 4. It wasn't much different for the team in Group B as well. Tokushima FC Youth Club won 8-2 against Team 2. The score 7-1 and 8-2 reminded him of the traumatic loss of Brazil against Germany in 2014 World Cup and Barcelona against Bayern Munich in Champions League. Finally, after those humiliating defeat of Team 2, 3 and 4, everybody expected that it would be one of those 4 youth clubs who'd win the tournament, and many spectators began to leave the field. The match between Team 1 and Little Boys Youth Club commenced with the referee's whistle. It was finally Hiro's team's turn to play. However, he was benched by the middle-aged coach. Just within 7 minutes into the first half, Little Boys Youth Club took the lead as they scored the opening goal. "Why, what are you doing? Don't leave your mark." The coach shouted furiously at the player who costed them the goal. The opponent team didn't stop at 1 goal and continued to charge vigorously, giving them no time to rest. The keeper in Hiro's team made countless saves. Luckily, the keeper in Hiro's team was somewhat experienced than the rest of the keepers of team who lost against youth clubs. But he couldn't handle all those pounding by himself. The defenders in Hiro's team dodged the ball whenever the opponent made a shot. Their cowardice costed them 3 goals before halftime. Even the coach was getting frustrated by their behavior, and in the second half, he decided to switch players. "Boy with curly hair, you're up," he exclaimed. "Me, sir," Hiro replied, pointing his finger towards himself. "What? Don't you want to go? Then leave it." The coach replied furiously. "No, sir, that's not what I meant." "Arg, whatever, get ready." The coach exasperated. Beep. Player change for Team 1. What is the coach thinking? Just after 2 minutes in second half, the coach of Team 1 has decided to use his first substitution. But the match looks as good as lost even after the substitution. The commentator announced. Finally, he was about to enter the pitch after 2 minutes in the second half. As he made his way towards the pitch, he looked around him. A lot of spectators were leaving their place, and the stadium was almost getting empty. Except the supporters of the youth clubs, almost nobody was present at the stands. Far in the right corner, he noticed his parents' cheers. They were overjoyed by his presence. He waved his hands towards his parents as he entered the pitch. "Heh, your team is 3 down, and you still have the audacity to wave your hand." The opponent player mocked his gesture and looked at him as if they would swallow him in a single gulp. Because every kid in their team were dressed in different jerseys, they were given green bibs by the organizer. As he took his position, the referee blew the whistle, commencing the continuation of the match. The ball is with the keeper, and he passes the ball towards the defender. It doesn't seem like that Team 1 could turn around the match. The ball was with his team's goalkeeper. The keeper played the ball towards the defender with number 2 on his back, who looked extremely tired. Number 2 seems extremely exhausted, and the opponent players are definitely making use of his exhaustion. Taking advantage of his exhaustion, the opponent players charged towards him. Now what will he do? Will he pass the ball, or will he dribble past the ball? Wait. No, he actually kicked the ball. But it seems that the ball will go out of bounds. Was it a mistake? Perhaps he was anxious? But whatever it is, the ball will definitely go out of bounds. Number 2 got anxious and kicked the ball hard towards the opponent's goalpost. Everybody assumed that the ball would go out of play. Even the opponent keeper assumed the same and stick to his post. Wait. Number 19 is running towards the ball. The same number 19 who was the first substitution of the Team 1. However, shattering everybody's expectation, Hiro made his run towards the ball with lightning speed. The opponents were caught off guard. Will he make it? Or will he not? He traps the ball in his chest. Magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. What a speed. What a touch. Where was Team 1's coach hiding such an amazing talent? At the far right corner of the opponent's post, he trapped the ball in his chest and prevented the ball from going out of bounds. But now that he have trapped the ball, what will he do? There's nobody in sight for passing. His teammates are all gathered in their own half. The opponent defenders are charging towards him. What will he do now? Chapter 8. All-out defense. Woohoo. What's that noise? One of the spectator who was about to leave the futsal inquired. The crowds inside the futsal burst out in ecstasy. The loud cheering noise coming from inside the futsal made the spectators who were leaving the premises curious. The loud cheers worked like a magnet, attracting the magnetic substance. The leaving spectators started to return back to witness the reason behind the cheers. What will number 19 do in this situation? 3 defenders and a keeper stands before him in the goalpost. And there's no sight of his teammate. He's completely surrounded. As soon as he trapped the ball, the opponent defenders reacted quickly and blocked the path course towards the goalpost. Hiro quickly scanned for any support, but there was none. His teammates were all clustered in their own half. He was left with only one solution. If he wanted to score the goal, he would have to dribble past all those 3 defenders. What's this? He's moving the ball forward by himself and facing the defender head-on. Is he that confident to take on 3 defenders all by himself, or is he that desperate for the goal? Whatever it is, we'll only know after a while. Let's see what this kid will show us. Hiro dashed towards the goalpost, but a defender blocked his course. He performed a body feint while making use of his pace and successfully passed the first defender. However, the other 2 defenders followed up instantly and cornered him. The second defender had his legs wide open. Making use of his open legs, he lightly kicked the ball between his legs and nutmegged him. The second defender was stunned by his performance. However, the last defender followed up with a sliding tackle. Hiro gently tapped the ball at the lower part and chipped the ball above him. The keeper, sensing danger, jumped towards the ball to punch it away. But before his punch could reach the ball, his feet reached it faster. In midair, he kicked the ball towards the goal. Golo all. Finally, Team 1 has opened up the score sheet. Magnificent. Simply magnificent. How is a kid of this age able to demonstrate such unbelievable talents? Just where had Coach Han been hiding such an overwhelming talent? Upon seeing the underdog fighting back against the omnipotent, almost everybody present in the pitch burst out in ecstasy. The whole futsal was filled with cheers and praises. Just what are you doing? Can't you block a single person? It's 1 versus 3 and yet you still get defeated? The opponent keeper spilled his anger on the 3 defenders who failed to defend against him despite outnumbering him 3-1. What's this? The calm and collected keeper of the Little Boy FC Youth Club is suddenly fuming after the first goal. While the opponent's keeper was shouting at his defenders, Hiro ran towards the part of the stand where his parents were seated. His teammates chased him to celebrate with him. However, he was too fast for them to catch up. I'll score 3 more goals. Just watch me, he announced to his father's face. Yeah, sure. If you could score that many goals, then I'll buy you your favorite cleats. His father placed a wager upon hearing his declaration. Beep. The referee has blown the whistle and the match continues. The number 19 kid has opened the score for his team just after 45 seconds of his arrival. Now the score sheet is Little Boys 3 and Team 1-1. Humph, that's just a fluke. Why are they even cheering that much for a fluke goal? The opponent team's striker exasperated. It was natural for him to get irritated. After all, despite scoring 2 goals in that match, he wasn't praised as much as Hiro, so it was natural for him to get jealous. Out of jealousy, he decided to dribble past the entire team of Team 1 all by himself. And as soon as he got the pass from his teammate, he dashed towards the Team 1's goal all by himself. The striker in Hiro's team proved to absolute garbage against the charging striker of the opponent team, as he couldn't do anything against him. Is it some kind of declaration to the number 19 kid of Team 1? Little Boy striker is charging all by himself towards the goal. What will Team 1 do now? He's already left 3 player of Team 1 in dust, and it doesn't seem that he'll slow down anytime sooner. But what's this? Number 19 kid is blocking his course. Is it only this far that he can take the ball by himself? Will he pass, or will he try to break through? The opponent's striker locked his eyes with him, as if he was signaling for him to come towards him. Just like the opponent's striker wished, Hiro dashed towards him. As Hiro stood in front of him, the opponent striker couldn't see any space to exploit, and thus kicked the ball forward and started to run towards the ball. He wanted to make use of his explosive pace. Huh, I win. You're no match for my pace. The opponent striker smirked. Huh. The smile on his face quickly faded away as he found Hiro running towards him like a cheetah. At that moment, he realized that he was no match for Hiro's pace. Oh, what's this? He got outwitted at his own game. The number 19 kid reached the ball way before him. I admit that you're faster than me, but that won't amount to anything if I snatch the ball from you. Admitting his weakness, he raised his guard to defend against Hiro. Hiro approached him slowly, and he was keeping his eyes fixated at the ball as well. Let me teach you how to do it. Hiro smirked as he kicked the ball forward and dashed towards the ball, leaving him in dust. That bastard. The opponent striker heard his taunt and cussed him as he tried to chase after Hiro. However, he couldn't do anything. No matter how fast he sprinted, he couldn't reach Hiro. What an amazing speed. He passed the opponent player without breaking any sweat. But is this just as far as he can go? The opponent player have reacted quickly and surrounded him. But what's this? He's not slowing even a bit. He's charging head-on all by himself. Hiro dashed with the ball towards the goal without losing his momentum. Several opponent players showed up, blocking his course. Away from 1, from 2, from 3, and he's still going. Magnificent. Magnificent. Away from 4, 5, 6, and yet he's still going. The only one left to beat is the goalkeeper. After dribbling past 6 opponent player by himself, he found himself in front of the goal 1 versus 1 with the goalkeeper. Even after breaking through, 6 guys all at once, he couldn't see any gap in the keeper. The opponent's goalkeeper had covered the entire goalpost all by himself. He didn't let a single space for him to shoot. As he moved forward with the ball, the opponent's keeper left his post and dashed towards him to minimize his shooting space. The keeper wasn't afraid of taking his shots on face. Shoot if you can. I'll block your shots even if I had to take it on face. The opponent keeper was determined to stop his shot. The keeper's eyes were fixated at the ball, and he was calculating his every body movement. He was overtly cautious. Making use of his cautiousness, he stretched his legs to shoot the ball. Just as he stretched his legs, the keeper predicted that he'd shoot the ball and dived forward to block the shot. But contrary to his prediction, Hiro faked the shot. Baka. Just as the keeper landed roughly, he shot with his other leg into the open goal. Golo Alol. It's another goal from number 19. That shot, that movement, that fake, that pace, everything, just everything he did was fabulous. Simply fabulous. After scoring that goal, he again ran towards his parents' side. Pointing 2 fingers at his father, he signaled him to keep his money prepared for the cleats. Just who is that kid? Where have he come from? I've not seen anything like this even in J-League. That goal was simply a work of art. It's not even been 5 minutes since he scored his first goal, and he has already scored the second one. Maybe now they can change the outcome of the match. It's Little Boys 3 and Team 1 2. To tie the match, Team 1 will have to score 1 more goal in next 13 minutes. And seeing the performance of the number 19 kid, they might actually pull it off. Beep. After that goal, the coach of the Little Boys Youth Club is looking somewhat anxious. He's making some changes. Player change for Little Boys Youth Club. Number 7 out, number 5 in. Number 10 out, number 3 inches. Number 9 out, number 22 in. It seems the coach is really anxious. He's subbing all his offensive players for defensive players. Are they planning to defend their 1-goal lead? After that magnificent goal, the coach of the Little Boys Youth Club subbed all of his offensive player for a defensive player. Previously their formation was 3-2-1, but now after the changes it became 5-1-0. With no offensive player, they fortified their defense, sacrificing their offense. And even that sole player in the mid played as a defensive mid Chapter 9, Panenka. After that second goal, starting from the kickoff, the opponent team played the ball in their own half. They didn't try to move the ball forward and kept on passing between themselves in their own half. They were only stalling for time as they were still in the lead. Hiro desperately tried to snatch the ball away from them, but as soon as he'd approach the player with the ball, that player would immediately pass the ball to someone else. His teammates were absolutely garbage. They couldn't even block their pass course or snatch the ball from the opponent. Boo! Boo! The crowds booed the Little Boy Youth Club's player whenever they touched the ball. They were getting extremely irritated by their plays. As the time went on, the frustration and boredom of the crowd built up and only intensified. And due to boredom, some of them started to leave the pitch. Are they planning to end the game like this? They aren't moving ball outside their own half. And one can vividly tell that the crowd is not satisfied with their playstyle. The boos of the crowd is only intensifying. I need to think of something else. How am I supposed to score if I'm not even getting the ball? Hiro mumbled. Given the situation, the only way for him to get the ball was to catch the opponent player off guard. He couldn't confront them directly. If he tried to confront them head-on, they would pass the ball to someone else, and his garbage team couldn't even win the ball back. The number 2 has passed the ball to number 22, and he's moving the ball towards the center. Perhaps they're finally thinking of going on offense after nearly 10 minutes of passing the ball in their own half. The player of Team 1 is speeding up on him. But what's this? He passed the ball back to number 2. Boo! Boo! Just when we thought that they're finally going on offense, they passed the ball backwards. Perhaps the game might end this way. You gotta feel sorry for number 19 kid. He gave his all to score 2 goals against them, but he couldn't win the game. But where is number 19 kid? He's nowhere to be seen in the pitch. Wait. Who's that kid in front in Team 1's defense? Didn't number 19 play as an offensive player? So what is he doing in the defense? Unable to snatch the ball away from Little Boy's player, Hiro had moved to the defense to get out from their sight. Just because he had moved to the defense didn't mean he had given up on the game. He was patiently waiting for an opportunity. And the opportunity finally came just a minute before the end of the game. Just as the opponent player with number 2 on his jersey kicked the ball hard towards the player at the opposite flank, Hiro rushed towards the ball. Seems like it's the last long pass of the game. The number 2 has kicked the ball hard, and it's heading straight towards number 4 at the opposite flank. The ball is still in the air, but what's this? Another player is rushing towards the ball. Who's that player? Who is it? Wait, I see number 19 in the jersey. It's number 19, once again making use of his explosive pace. Will he get to the ball before number 4? What are you doing? Move towards the ball. The opponent coach shouted at his player to get the ball before number 19 could snatch it away from him. Suddenly number 4 started to get anxious, and he staggeringly ran towards the ball, even though the ball was still in midair. And he did reach the ball before Hiro. After all, he was the one who was the closest to the ball. Number 4 has reached the ball before him, but would he be able to trap the ball? But out of nervousness, he couldn't trap the ball, and it slipped off him. And due to that simple mistake of number 4, Hiro snatched the ball away from him. After that, there was no stopping to him. He sped up towards the goal. But number 4 hadn't given up as well. He desperately chased after Hiro. However, his pace was a little bit slower than Hiro, and he wasn't able to reach Hiro. Hiro was already in front of the D box, and if he didn't do anything, then Hiro would score the goal without any mistake and tie the game. He didn't want to take on the blame for that goal, and thus he decided to foul Hiro. Unable to snatch the ball away from Hiro, he extended his arms and grabbed Hiro's shirt. Beep. That's a foul. What will the referee do? The foul looked intentional. He won't get away easily without getting a card. The referee put his hand inside his pocket and took a card out. It's a red card, and number 4 is sent off. Also, the team 1 is given free kick in front of the penalty area. That spot looks as dangerous as penalty. However, that red card would be meaningless if they failed to score the goal. So who will be the one to take the free kick? As the foul was committed outside the penalty zone, they were granted free kick. The time had almost ended, and it was very well the last set piece of the match. While the number 4 was getting sent off, Coach Han waved his hands and signaled them to group up. And thus, all of them rushed towards Coach Han. They formed a semicircle and gathered around Coach Han. You've all done great. So no matter the result, I want you all to remember that you fought till the end. While the other teams were humiliated, you guys have persevered against a pro youth club. So that alone is a great accomplishment. But remember, this is football, and in football, only the winners are remembered. So I want you all to give your best for this last set piece. And before you go, number 19 will take the free kick. Does anybody have any objection? If not, go show them what you are capable of. Coach Han gave a long pep talk to increase the morale of the squad. For whole match, he had been yelling at the players for their mistakes. But at the final moment of the match, his attitude changed. He finally played the role of the coach. I guess you're still a coach after all. Hiro chuckled as he made his way towards the ball. In front of the D box, around 8 yards away from the goal post, his team was awarded a free kick for the intentional foul of number 4. If he could score that free kick, then the game would be tied, and the winner would be decided by a penalty shootout. However, if he failed to convert that free kick, then the referee would blow the whistle to end the match, and they'd lose the match. The fate of his team, the opportunity to face up against the future goalkeeper of national team, everything depended on his free kick. And he didn't want to risk that opportunity. As he stood in front of the ball, he remembered about the free kick performed by Andres Messi. Even though his free kick lacked power, it was extremely precise. And Hiro needed that technique of Messi at the moment, instead of a powerful shot like Christian Romero. Status window. Activate the skill focus. Skill activated. The host has entered into a hyper-focus zone, and he can't be distracted by the outer mediums. After activating the skill, he could no longer hear the noise of the crowd. Suddenly, the environment around him got silent. He turned his head towards the stands. The crowds were cheering loudly, but he couldn't hear anything at all. He then looked at the ball. He could see every little detail in the football, the number of stitches it contained, the stains, the bumps. He could see everything crystal clear. He could see every minute details of the ball. He then looked at the opponent keeper. Drip, drip. He could vividly see the sweat formed in his face. The keeper was panting heavily and looked tense. He was yelling at the defenders to strengthen the wall and close the gaps. There was a mix of emotion in his face. He looked anxious, terrified, and exhausted at the same time. At that moment, Hiro realized that the keeper was nervous about the free kick, and there was some possibility that he'd failed to save the ball due to his nervousness. Due to his skill, he could hear what the keeper was whispering even though he was far away from him. He looked at his teammates. They all were whispering something as well. Some praying, some whining. He could hear each and every one of them clearly just by focusing on their lips. Damn, the skill really lives up to its name. Hiro whispered in awe. Beep. Sigh. He took in a deep breath and released it. As he stood in front of the ball, the referee blew his whistle. Hiro knew exactly where to hit the ball to get his desired result, and the skill made it easier for him to locate that point on the ball. He hit the ball at the lower right part with the inside of his big toe. A panenka? Are you kidding me? That little kid is hitting a panenka? The commentator bewilderingly yelled. As the ball left his feet, it flew over the wall and headed towards the goal. Due to the spin in the ball dropped after reaching its maximum height and curved towards the upper right corner of the goalpost. Swoosh. Golo. The keeper jumped to save the ball, but couldn't save it. It grazed past his gloves, crossed the goal line, and touched the net with a swoosh sound. Chapter 10. Not enough. After that brilliant Panenka goal from Hiro, the game was tied. And as the players got into their respective position to continue the match, the referee blew the final whistle and ended the match. Unable to decide the victor in full 40 minutes, the game went into penalty shootout to decide the victor. Since it was a kids' game, there was no extra time as it would be too much for the kids. What an amazing match it was. At first the game looked pretty much one-sided. But just with the appearance of number 19 kid, the whole rhythm of the match changed. What an unbelievable player. Since the game has ended with a tie, the victor will be decided by the penalty shootout. and it looks like Little Boys Youth Club will be the first one to take the shootout. The opponent player with number 2 on his back stood in front of the ball to take the first penalty. Beep. Number 2 ran towards the ball and kicked the ball at the lower left corner of the post. Their keeper predicted correctly and jumped towards the left while stretching his arms. Save. The keeper has saved the penalty. What an unbelievable save by the Team 1's keeper. If this continues, they might pull out a win. From his team's side, he was the first one to take the penalty. The skill focus was still in effect, and this time too the opponent keeper looked extremely nervous to face against him. From Team 1, it's number 19 who'll be taking the first shot. If it's this kid, then he'll definitely put the ball inside the net. Beep. As soon as the referee blew the whistle, he charged towards the ball. Due to his speed, the opponent keeper got even more anxious. He didn't give the keeper a single moment to fortify his mind. Before, when he scored the free kick, he focused more on his technique, but this time around it was all about power. He hit the ball hard in the top right corner. Due to the rapid velocity of the ball, the keeper couldn't react at all. Swoosh. Gulo alal. The shot went like a missile, the keeper couldn't even react. Look at him, he's still frozen at his place. His touches were already deadly due to his technique. But what's with this power? He's like the combination of Messi and Romero. And with this goal, Team 1 has taken the lead. But that goal was the only goal Team 1 scored in that whole penalty shootout. After that goal, everybody in his team missed their shots, while the keeper did save one more shot. But that wasn't enough to move to the next match. In the end, they lost the penalty shootout 3-1. And the only goal they scored in the shootout was his sole goal. Little Boys Youth Club defeated the next opponent 2-1 and went on to the finals from Group B. While from Group A, it was no surprise. Sakura FC Youth Club went on to the finals. And thus in the final match of the tournament, Little Boys Youth Club faced Sakura FC Youth Club for the glory. Despite hitting hard and shooting frequently, Hiro didn't let in even a single goal. He completely blocked every shot taken by Little Boys Youth Club's player and denied them from scoring a single goal. At that single match, Little Boys Youth Club performed 17 shots on target, but they couldn't score a single goal past Kurosawataki. However, Sakura FC Youth Club struggled to score against Team 1 as well. The game was scoreless for 39 minutes. And at the final minute of the match, number 7 from Sakura FC Youth Club scored a goal past the keeper of Little Boys Youth Club and won the tournament. And finally, the intense match between Sakura FC Youth Club and Little Boys Youth Club ended with Sakura FC Youth Club's victory. Despite being knocked out in the first round, Hiro spectated the whole tournament as a spectator from the sidelines. Time and again the commentator mentioned his name as well. He thought that he could win the tournament because he was much older than the other kids, but somehow he had forgotten that he himself had a body of 5-year-old. Despite being 27-year-old from inside, his outer body was that of a 5-year-old kid. And that 5-year-old body didn't have the strength like his 27-year-old body. That tournament made him realize about his lack of strength. If he wanted to perform according to his will, he was required to increase his strength and train himself. Just by relying on his IQ, he wouldn't be able to win the match. Ding! Daily mission unlocked. Go to status window to see more about daily missions. Huh? Daily mission at this time? This system won't even let me grieve over my loss. He mumbled. Whatever. Status window. Daily mission. Run, 5 kilometers. Sit up, 50. Squats, 50. Push up, 50. Juggle, 500. Head movements, 500. Free kick, 500. Penalty, 500. Note: the given objective should be completed by the end of the day. Reward on completion, random attribute point. Penalty, electrocution. Yo, WTF? Electrocution? Will it give me electric shock every time I fail to accomplish this task? Isn't it too demanding for a kid? I may be 27-year-old, but my body is that of 5-year-old. How the hell am I supposed to complete all this task? Run 5 kilometers? Let alone 5 kilometers, I can barely run 3 kilometers. And what's with this juggle, free kick, push up and penalty? Though I used to do more than 1,000 shots a day, but dude, I'm a 5-year-old. So how the hell am I supposed to complete all these objectives? Even though he didn't voice his words, his face clearly reflected all his frustration. He was extremely agitated by the task given by the system. The system has detected extreme anger in host. The host's BP is rising rapidly. It suggested that the host to calm down or else the situation could escalate into stroke and the host's life may be in danger. Huh? You want me to calm down? Just how am I supposed to do that after your ridiculous tasks? Hiro exasperated. It's all up to you, whether you want to become a world-class player or remain a mediocre. However, given the host's condition, he can skip the mission for today and start the mission from tomorrow. Hiro couldn't reply anything. He was speechless. After all, the system was speaking the truth, and he himself was aware of it. He couldn't argue against the system. Even though most athletes wouldn't show their hardships, almost all of them have put in utmost effort to reach the top. Every year, countless kids undergo trials to become pro, and every year a lot of them fail as well. One couldn't simply become pro just because he or she wants to become a pro. They need to put in the required effort to achieve their wishes. And just because one is talented doesn't mean she could make it to pro. Talent may be one of the elements required for success. However, no talent would thrive without the effort. And just like Hiro, there are countless talented individuals scattered all across the globe. In Brazil alone, there are countless kids who are like him or even better than him. And thus at that moment Hiro realized that just because he had the knowledge of future and talent, he wouldn't be able to make it to pro without training himself every day and dedicating himself for the cause of being the GOAT. While he was making his mind, his father looked at him and saw a burning spark in his eyes. His father was about to inquire him about his well-being and console him for the loss. However, after seeing the determined look on his son's face, he shut his mouth and left Hiro all by himself. From the futsal to his home, he didn't speak anything. Neither did he show sadness, nor did he complain about the unfairness of the match. Despite scoring 3 goals in less than 20 minutes, he couldn't get the chance to face against Kurosawa Taki. Kurosawa Taki didn't concede a single goal in that whole tournament. While on his way, he wondered if the result would be different if he faced against him. Even the commentator mentioned about him that during the final match, it was the same result in his previous life as well. However, at that time, the match didn't go into shootout. They had lost the match 6-2 against Little Boys Youth Club. And at that time, too, he had scored 2 goals for his team. While walking to his home, he analyzed all his strengths and weaknesses. Not only his own strengths and weaknesses, he analyzed the strength and weaknesses of the best players of the tournament. He finished in the 3rd of the scoring list, despite playing a single game. The score list went as such: Ryu Ito, Sakura FC, 7 goals. Natsu Nakamura, Little Boys, 5 goals. Takahashi Hiro, Team 1, 3 goals. Although he didn't get any reward for finishing 3rd in the scoring list, he still got a certificate of appreciation for his achievement. Chapter 11. Offers. After that tournament, for almost a year, he didn't participate in any official match. It wasn't because he didn't want to play, but more like he couldn't. He was too young to participate in official matches. And only from elementary level, he'd be able to participate in the inter-school tournaments for elementary level. Though he'd still have to wait for few years to participate in the middle school and high school level inter-school national tournament held in all over Japan. National tournaments are held every year between the regional champions of Japan. National tournament, as the name suggested, is a tournament held between the different schools in Japan to compete for the glory of being the strongest footballing school in all over Japan. The tournament is held for all levels of school, i.e. elementary school, middle school, and high school level. As Japan is divided into 47 prefectures and 8 regions, there are countless schools who participate in the tournament just to make it to the national. And making it to the national isn't an easy feat. Countless schools from different prefectures compete among themselves to come out as victor of their respective prefectures. And just becoming a prefectural champion won't guarantee the spot for the nationals, as they would still need to defeat other prefectural champions to represent their region. And finally, after defeating other prefectural champions, the respective school would be able to participate in the national tournament. For example, Hiro, who resides in Tokushima Prefecture, is a part of the Shikoku region. And in his region alone, there are 4 prefectures, which is one of the lowest in Japan. For his school to make it to the national, firstly, they would need to become the prefectural champions by defeating several schools from his prefecture. And after that, they would need to defeat 3 more teams to make it to the nationals. Similarly, Tokyo Prefecture, which lies in Kanto region, has 7 prefecture. So if any school from Tokyo want to make it to the nationals, they would need to defeat 6 more schools from other prefectures in order to reach the national. Well, technically, they wouldn't need to compete against all the teams in the region, as a draw would take place, and they would play matches in knockout format to become the regional champions. The system does seem kind of flawed and unfair for the region where there are a lot of prefectures. But nobody can say or do anything about it. That's how the system goes after all. There's also other tournaments beside national tournament. However, national tournament is regarded as the supreme among any other tournament for school-level tournaments. Winning the national tournament, or even making it to the nationals, is a huge achievement for any school. The schools who have won the tournament or made it to the national multiple times are a very reputed school. Just by winning or making it to the nationals, the reputation of the respective school would soar to heavens. Thus, the schools in Japan would go crazy over talented players. They would send their scouts in almost every tournament held in the prefecture to scout the most talented individuals. And after scouting, they would offer ridiculous scholarship for the player, if the player met their standards. The system in Japan is similar to that of the business module followed by professional football teams. What school should I attend? Hiro wondered. After graduating from the kindergarten, while lying in his bed, he was wondering about the elementary school he wanted to attend. To avoid his past mistakes, he wanted to choose a different school than his previous life. Let's think about that after a while. I haven't observed my stats for a while. Shall we see what progress I've made after tirelessly completing the daily mission given by that freaking system? He contemplated. For almost a whole year without any breaks, he completed the task given by the system. Even though he failed miserably during his early days, he got a hang of it after repeating the same actions every day. Damn, I don't want to remember that. He stuttered as he remembered the hardships he had to endure during his earlier days. A shiver ran down his spine as he remembered about the moment when he got electrocuted. Because of the shock, he would return home completely tattered. Seeing his miserable condition, his mother couldn't help but worry about him. For the past year, he got scolded countless times by his mother. There were even moments when she banned him from going outside. However, due to his father's effort, he could still train properly. Somehow, after training for a while, he noticed a loophole in the system. Since he had school at 8, he needed to wake up early in the morning to complete half of the sets given by the system. And later in the evening, he could complete the other half and finally complete the daily mission given by the system. Making use of the loophole, he avoided electrocution and also his mother's wrath. Status window. Basic information. Name, Takahashi Hiro. Age, 6 years old. Weight, 21 kilograms. Height, 4 feet. Potential, SSS. Attribute point, 10.05. Roulette tickets, 0. Skills, focus. Title, Master of the Talent Copying System, Regressor, one who possess ethereal talent. Attributes. Physical, 31/100ths, grade, D. Dribbling, 69/100, grade, B. Pace, 44/100, grade, C. Passing, 55/100, grade, C+. Shooting, 57 out of 100, grade, C+. Defending, 29/100, grade, D. Mentality, 49/100, grade, C. IQ, 74/100, grade, B+. Overall grade, C. I still have a lot of unallocated attribute points, but I'll save it for later. Hiro mumbled. After training hard for almost a year, he had increased his stats tremendously with the help of system. By now he could have easily made it to under 13 national team if he tried for it. However, he was still very young for that. To play in under 13 national team, the minimum requirement was that the player needed to be at least 8 years old. However, he was only 6 years old. As he was wondering about the elementary school he could attend, his mind wandered somewhere else. Should I actually apply for a youth club instead? He wondered. Maybe joining La Masia wouldn't be a dream if I could attend a trial. He started to dwell in his fantasies. The dinner's ready. Come down, Hiro. He heard his mother calling his name. And that voice brought him back to reality. And the reality was that he was still poor. His family couldn't afford a trip to Europe, and the European scouts didn't come to Japan around that time. It would still require a lot of time before the world would take notice of Japan. Although Japan was considered a powerhouse football team in Asia, it was nowhere near world level. It was just another average team in the world. And European scouts rarely made their way towards Japan to scout the player. Maybe I should try to win the nationals first, and we'll think of the future afterwards. For now, let's focus on the nationals. He mumbled as he left his room. Thank you for the food. He prayed as he prepared to eat the dinner prepared by his mother. It was plain dinner with rice and few side dishes made up of fish and potato. As he stuffed the food in his mouth, his mother questioned him. Which school do you want to attend, Hiro? No, I am not sure yet, he replied while chewing. Let him complete his dinner first, and we'll talk about that later. His father interrupted. And finally, after completing dinner, all three of them sat at the dining table to talk about his decision. Tokushima Elementary School is the nearest one, so why don't you attend that school? His mother exclaimed. It was the same school he had attended in his previous life, so he was somewhat hesitant of attending the same school once again. Plus, there was no football team in Tokushima Elementary School, and it would take another 2 years for the school to gather players required to form a football team. Thus, he was somewhat hesitant of joining Tokushima Elementary School. Honey, don't pressure him. Let him decide on the school that he wants to attend. His father spoke in a soft tone. But it's the closest school in the neighborhood, so I think it'd be better for him to attend it. And how can a kid who's barely 6 years old even decide for himself? His mother argued. Seeing her irritated face, his father went silent. Even if he was the man of the house, his mother was the one who made the decisions. But Mom, the school doesn't even have a football team. Hiro tried to resist his mother's decision. So what about it? You are going to school for studies, not for football. His mother yelled. Seeing her response, he knew that he wouldn't be able to convince her. She was adamant about her decisions. But even so, he didn't want to waste his 6 precious years in a school with no football team. Even though he could still play football and train in the park. But that wouldn't help him develop as a player. What he needed was practical experience, and he wouldn't gain experience by playing disorganized friendly matches. So it's final. You're going to Tokushima Elementary School. As she was about to finish the conversation, his father interrupted. Actually, Hiro has received scouting offers from Rondon Elementary School, Karasuno Elementary School, and Ukami Elementary School. Huh, why didn't you tell me, Dad? Chapter 12, Ukami Elementary School. As the topic of the school that wanted to scout him was brought onto the table, Hiro got mad at his father for hiding the information from him. Rondon Elementary School was a non-profit school funded by the various charitable trusts in London. And currently, it was the best school in Tokushima Prefecture for football. Although it had never won the nationals, but it had made it to the nationals several times. For past 7 years, it had been dominating the prefectural competitions and making it to the regionals. And for past 2 years, it had continuously reached the nationals. It was a powerhouse elementary-level football school in all over Tokushima Prefecture. Although Karasuno Elementary School have failed to qualify for the regionals for past 2 years because of Rondon Elementary School, it was still regarded as one of the powerhouse elementary-level football school in Tokushima Prefecture, just like Rondon Elementary School. And unlike Rondon Elementary School, it had actually won the nationals once, a long time ago. But what surprised him even more was to receive offer from the newly formed elementary school, Iukami Elementary School. Although it was still a newly formed school, having knowledge of the future, Hiro knew about the potential of that newly formed school. Due to its excellent scouting, the school would gather countless exceptional talents and go on to challenge both Rondon Elementary School and Karasuno Elementary School for the spot in nationals. However, it would always fall short to grab the spot for nationals. After thinking for a while, his mother spoke. But both Rondon and Karasuno Elementary School are far away from here. So who'll escort Hiro to school? You and I both have jobs. Hiro knew that if he remained silent, his mother would send him to Tokushima Elementary School. And before that happened, he needed to raise his voice. But what about Ukami Elementary School? Hiro mumbled. What about it? It's not that far away from here. And it's only 30 minutes away from bike. Hiro tried to persuade his mother. But since it's a private school, the fees must be ridiculously expensive. His mother replied with a worried face. Actually, you don't have to worry about that matter. All 3 of the schools have offered him sports scholarship. So we won't need to pay a single yen. Huh, you're not joking, right, dear? If you are, then don't even think about having a single sip of beer for an entire month. No, I'm not joking. I'm telling the truth. They are offering him full scholarship. His father replied in a flustered tone. As soon as she heard about scholarship, the expression in her face quickly changed. Just like chameleon changing its color, his mother's expression changed as soon as she heard about scholarship. He knew for a fact that his mother was very fond of money, and she was that cheapskate who'd buy tons of items if they were offered for sale even if they didn't need it. We'll go visit them tomorrow, his mother concluded. And just like that, it was decided that he would attend Ukami Elementary School. Even though Hiro wanted to attend Rondon Elementary School or Karasuno Elementary School, he was still satisfied with attending Ukami Elementary School rather than Tokushima Elementary School. Next day early in the morning, Hiro set out to Ukami Elementary School with his parents. Both of their parents applied for a leave to accompany him to the school. They left their home at 10 a.m. and took a train to the school. It would have taken them longer if they were to bike to the school. But since they took a train to commute to the school, they reached their destination in only 10 minutes. At 10:20, they stood in front of the Ukami Elementary School's main gate. The school was huge and covered a lot of area. Although it was in a remote location, the chatters of the students could be heard even from outside the gate. After exiting the train, they needed to hike for 5 minutes to reach the school. Ukami Elementary School was located at the top of a hill. Who are you? And what's your purpose for visiting the school? A middle-aged man dressed in a guard uniform stopped them as they tried to enter the school. Sorry for bothering you, but we're actually here for the admission of our son. His father replied in a gentle manner. The man then casted a glance at Hiro, who was neatly dressed in a black shirt and beige color linen half pant. The admission process hasn't started yet. So why are you here so early? The guard replied. Honey, don't tell me that you haven't talked with the staff yet. His mother exclaimed while barely holding herself from getting angry. I forgot. Hee hee. His father laughed awkwardly as he replied. Huh, you forgot? Are you for real? Even though she didn't speak loudly, he could clearly see that she was getting agitated and was barely holding herself from yelling out loud. His father had sensed her anger as well, and thus he remained completely silent. Arg. Whatever. For now, let's just ask him to let us enter the school. And you and me will need to have a talk when we reach home. Gulp. Gulp. Yes, ma'am. His father gulped his saliva. Rest in peace, Dad. He mumbled inwardly. Excuse our intrusion, but would you let us enter the school? His mother spoke to the guard. No, ma'am, I can't do that. I can't let you pass without any appointment. The guard sternly denied their access. Just then his father pulled out a business card from his pocket and handed it over to the guard. The guard, as soon as he witnessed the card, went over to his booth. Please wait here for a while. He then started to call someone. As soon as he finished speaking, he opened the gate. Please come in. I didn't realize that you were invited by Sakamoto-san. Please forgive my rudeness. The guard apologized as he let them in. It's all right. You're only doing your job. But where do we need to go? His father replied as they walked inside. The school was gigantic. There was a 4-story tall building with a gigantic clock at the entrance of the building. Aside from the main building, there were 4 more buildings. No worries, I'll escort you. The guard then began to escort them towards the principal's office. While they were being escorted towards the principal's office, the guard then began to introduce about the general layout of the school. The main building had almost more than 60 classrooms, several storerooms, several science labs, and other facilities. There were also 2 gymnasium and a large auditorium present in the school. Cafeteria was in a separate building. The football ground was behind the main building and in front of the dense forest. He said that the football ground was surrounded by nets to prevent the ball from going astray, and the whole school was surrounded by sturdy walls. Hiro's anticipation grew as the guard mentioned about the football ground. He was more concerned about the football ground than the various sumptuous facilities provided by the school. Finally, after 10 minutes of walking, they reached the principal's office. It was in the 3rd floor of the main building. "I can only escort you up to here." The guard spoke as he left them in front of the door of the principal's office. "Knock, knock. Please come in." As they knocked the door, they heard a voice of a woman coming from inside the principal's office. "Pardon our intrusion." They entered the office. As they walked in the office, they were greeted by 4 pupils. The principal's office was extremely spacious and neatly clean. Several certificates and photos were hung up on the walls of the office. At the center of the room, there was a huge table and sofa on its either side. At the end of the table, there was another table with an opulent chair. In that chair was seated an old man who looked like he was in his 60s, and beside him was a beautiful young lady who looked like she was still in her 30s. And finally at the sofa, there were 2 men seated next to each other. One looked like he was still in his 50s while the other looked younger than him. "Please be seated." The young lady escorted them towards the empty sofa. And as they took their seat, the young man opposite to them spoke. "It's a pleasure to meet you once again, Takahashi-san." No. The pleasure is all mine, Sakamoto-san." The young man who greeted them was the scout of the Ukami Elementary School, and the old man who was seated beside him was the head coach of the Ukami Elementary School's football team. "This right here is Miura-sensei, and the person seated at the chair in front of us is our principal Miyamoto Takumi-san, and beside him the young lady is his PA Suzuka-sensei." Sakamoto introduced everybody present in the office. "Nice to meet you. I'm Takahashi Takashi, and she's my wife Takahashi Momo. And this is our son Takahashi Hiro." While he was introducing himself, his wife and his son, Sakamoto interrupted him. "We are well aware of your son. Aren't we all gathered here to discuss about his possible admission in our school?" Chapter 13, Titan Keeper. While Sakamoto-san was speaking, head coach Miura interrupted him. "Sorry if I sound rude, but with all due respect to Sakamoto-san, I can't believe the exaggerated words of Sakamoto-san. His words sounded extremely ridiculous to me when he mentioned about Hiro's skill previously. So if it's all right with you, can we test his skills?" Head coach Miura turned his head towards the principal as if he was asking for his approval. Noticing his intention, Principal Miyamoto Takumi agreed to his request. "If it's not a problem with you, Takahashi-san, can we examine Hiro's skill?" The principal asked his father. His father hesitated a bit. This wasn't what he had been expecting. He glanced at Sakamoto-san, but he remained completely silent. "But he hasn't brought his cleats right now." "That's all right, we'll ask one of our players to lend him the boot for a while," the coach replied. Listening to the words of head coach, he could no longer deny them, and thus, he hesitantly took a peek at Hiro. Without saying any words, Hiro nodded his head. "Well, I guess we can do that since it looks like Hiro doesn't have any problem with it. Sorry for this unreasonable request, but our reputation is at stake, so we couldn't just take him in without analyzing his skills firsthand." The principal apologetically placed his hands on top of Takashi's shoulder as they stood in the sidelines waiting for Hiro to make his appearance. "I'll be blunt with you. We're still a newly formed school, so to raise our reputation, our school committee had decided to invest in football. So it's really crucial for us to gather a good team that could perform well in tournaments. And thus, if Hiro can't perform well in this trial, I'm afraid that we can't provide him with scholarship. I hope you can understand what I mean." The principal exclaimed bluntly without holding back. Upon listening to the words of principal, Takashi looked at his wife. But it seemed like she didn't hear anything at all as she was staring intently at the storeroom beside the pitch. "Go to Class 4B and tell Mark to come to the pitch. Also tell him to put on his gears." Coach Miura ordered the student who had lent his boots to Hiro. The school was open and the classes were running as usual. It was 11:45 a.m. right now, and there were still 15 minutes left for the lunch break. The ground was open for everybody during school hours, and only after the end of the school, it was reserved for football teams on normal days. After getting dressed in the team's locker room, Hiro made his way towards the pitch. As he made his way towards the pitch, he intently stared at the pitch in front of him. The ground was much bigger than his expectation. He could tell that the pitch was almost 130 yards long and 100 yards wide. It had almost the same measurements as those of the professional football grounds. There were also few posts lying in the ground. The permanent goalpost was designed for professional players rather than for kids, and thus there were 2 more pairs of goalposts. The size of one pair of the goalposts was the same as that of the futsal, and the other pair was a mini post. Not only had they provided him with the cleats, but they had also provided him with the team's jersey. The jersey of Ukami Elementary School's football team was plain black with golden stripes around neck and cuff. The logo resembled the shape of a wolf's head, which was silver-white. "Who's that? Had I seen him before somewhere?" He was confused by the appearance of a new person in the pitch. Aside from the 4 people in principal's office, there was a new face in the ground. A man who looked like he was still in his 20s was arranging the training equipments in the ground. And somehow he was getting a feeling of nostalgia from that person. Come over here quick, Hiro. While he was wondering about the identity of the new face, he heard the voice of Coach Miura. Hearing his voice, he ran towards Coach Miura. Look, I want you to dribble past those cones zigzag as fast as you can. But there's a catch. As you go left, you can only use your left foot, and as you go right, you can only use your right foot. Also, you can't touch the cone, and neither can you kick the ball far away from the cone. Did you understand? Yes, sir. As he stood in front of the cones, he noticed that the gap between the cones was barely enough to fit two balls. The gaps were extremely tight, and if he slipped even a bit, he'd have touched the cone. The drill was extremely difficult. Without perfect ball control, the drill was near to impossible. Ding! Side mission unlocked. Complete the drills set up by coach with astonishing result and impress the coach. Reward upon completion, 1 roulette ticket. Penalty, you'll lose stats randomly. Huh, are you kidding me? Lose stat? I freaking spent so much time to gain this stat, and you're saying that I'd have to lose it because of one simple quest? Hiro was extremely agitated by the words of the system. He had spent almost a year to raise his attributes, but the system was threatening to decrease his stats if he failed. Seeing the audacity of the system, he felt mocked by the system. Beep. As soon as the coach blew the whistle, Hiro started to dribble the ball. To complete the quest as fast as possible, he performed elastico continuously with both his feet. He'd perform a elastico with his right foot and follow up with another elastico with his left foot. He performed elastico without a break for more than 18 times. Beep. 47 seconds. I can't believe it. He completed the whole drill in 47 seconds. It didn't even take 1 minute for him to pass 18 cones. Plus the gap was ridiculously small. The coach's jaw dropped, and his eyes were wide open upon witnessing the unbelievable feat demonstrated by Hiro. For a while the coach couldn't speak anything. He was completely speechless. He stood like a stone statue while looking at his stopwatch. His parents and the principal had the same expression similar to that of the coach. Even the person who was arranging the drills revealed the same expression as that of the coach. Nobody could believe their eyes. Coach! Coach! He called out for Coach, who was staring blankly at his stopwatch with his jaws wide open. Ah, yes. Yes. Now let's test your speed. Sprint as fast as you can towards the center of the pitch. Yes, sir. Beep. To increase his speed, Hiro put all of his body weight in his toes and dashed forward with explosive strength. Beep. 17 seconds. How can a kid run this fast? WTH. The coach couldn't believe that a kid who was barely 6 years old sprinted 75 yards in 17 seconds. However, that wouldn't be the last of the surprise he would be getting during that trial. Hiro completely shattered every expectations of the coach. Mark is here, coach. As he was performing the individual drills, a 5 feet tall kid made his way towards the pitch. With a tan skin and blonde hair, he looked like a foreigner. Huh? He doesn't look like Japanese. Hiro mumbled, looking at him. Come here, Hiro. Let me introduce you to him. This kid with blonde hair is our team's goalkeeper. His name is Mark Yudo, aka Titan. And Mark, he's our new recruit, Takahashi Hiro. Japanese? I thought that he'd be a foreigner. Hiro's eyes were wide open in shock. Huh, yes, he's Japanese. His mother is German and his father is Japanese. That's why he looks like a foreigner. But rest assured, he's Japanese. The coach revealed that Mark was half German and half Japanese. And he could clearly see why he was called Titan. He was ridiculously tall for an elementary level school kid. As they finished their introduction, the coach ordered Mark to head over towards the goalpost. However, he didn't place him in the post for kids. Rather, he placed him in front of the post for adults. After that, the coach told him to score a free kick against Mark from 30 yards away to test his shooting power and shooting technique. As he stood 30 yards away from the post, the person who was arranging the drills placed few mannequins to act as a wall in front of him, and he began to shoot the ball. Chatter! Chatter! A huge crowd of students gathered around the sidelines of the pitch. Why, what's happening over there? One of the students asked another student while pointing his finger at the crowd ahead. I don't know, but there's a kid who's barely 4 feet tall scoring goal against Mark. Huh, Mark? You mean the school football team's captain and the Titan goalkeeper? Yes, he's scoring goals effortlessly against that Mark. Humph. He must be scoring penalties. But even scoring penalties against Mark is incredible. But he's scoring against him from 30 yards free kick. Are you for real? If you don't believe me, then why don't you go and see for yourself? As they finished their conversation, both of them rushed towards the pitch. There in the pitch, Hiro stood in front of the ball, 30 yards away from the goalpost. Mark looked extremely tired. As he kicked the ball flew with a rapid velocity towards the upper right corner. Mark jumped towards the ball, but he couldn't even touch the ball. Whoa! Goal! Chapter 14. Too mature for a child. As the time passed, more and more students started to show in front of the pitch, and the cheers of the crowd only intensified as the clock ticked. Witnessing the huge crowds of students, the principal started to get anxious. He feared that the trial would disrupt the school schedule, and thus, he started to walk towards Coach Miura. I think we've seen enough, Coach, haven't we? As he walked closer to Coach Miura, he tried to stop the trial. We still haven't tested him enough. The coach grunted. Sigh. The crowd is getting out of control, so it's best that we stop the trial for now. Just tell me, Would you like to sign him in your team or not? Principal Miyamoto tried to convince Coach Miura, who wasn't willing to end the trial. But as Coach Miura noticed the huge crowd of students, he reluctantly agreed to Principal's suggestion. It's not whether I want him or not, Principal Miyamoto. We must definitely have him. Even if we have to provide him with additional incentive, we mustn't let him go. I can bet my name on it that he's a generational talent that only shows once in several centuries. After witnessing Hiro's skill firsthand, Coach Miura was full of Hiro's praises. I understand, Coach. Hiro, you can stop now. Coach Miura commanded. And just like that, Hiro was signed by Ukami Elementary School. Not only did he get a full scholarship, but the school decided to sponsor him with every equipment he required for his training. The sponsorship included jerseys, boots, shin guards, balls, etc. Ding! Congratulations for the host for completing the task. One roulette ticket has been awarded for the host for the successful completion of the quest. Due to the excellent results shown by the host has been granted with a silver ticket instead of a bronze ticket. Please use the ticket in the roulette wheel. I'll save it for now. I'll check it later in the night. He mumbled. After a long, hectic day, he could finally rest. While his father and mother were discussing with each other, he was lying in his bed. Even after the trial, he somehow finished his remaining sets of daily mission in the evening, regardless of his fatigue. It was such a hectic day, but I'm thankful for God that it went all right. Right. I still have that roulette ticket to use. Let's check it out before going to sleep. Status window. As he mentioned status window, the blue panel appeared before his eyes. After scrolling for a while, Hiro clicked on the roulette section. Just as he clicked the roulette section, the system directed him towards another page. There in the panel, a roulette wheel appeared in front of him. Inside the wheel, there were many cards of different colors, but he couldn't see what was written in the card. One single silver roulette ticket detected. Would you like to use your ticket? Yes. Just as he agreed, all of a sudden the wheel started to spin, and all those different colored cards changed into silver color cards. After spinning for 5 seconds, the wheel stopped spinning and the arrow pointed at one of the cards. Oh, what's this? Even though the mechanism of the system was quite simple, Hiro was having trouble figuring out the working mechanism of the system. Would you like to open your cards? Yes. Ding. Congratulations. The host has gained a new skill. Skill, perseverance. Skill info. The host can get unlimited stamina during the usage of this skill regardless of his fatigue. Skill CD, 24 hours. Skill duration, 15 minutes. Damn, I can probably use this skill every time the game goes into extra time. With the usage of this skill, I can completely catch the opponent team off guard. Just when did this system get so generous? Now I really wonder what kind of ridiculous skills are hidden behind other cards. Hiro smiled cheekily while reading the skill description. System, can you explain in detail about the working mechanism of the roulette wheel? Even though he had gained a new skill from the roulette wheel, he was still confused about the working mechanism of the roulette wheel. So, to better understand the working mechanism of the roulette wheel, Hiro inquired the system. Roulette wheel, a section of the system where the host can get rewards at random. The rewards drawn by the host are completely random, and it entirely depends on host's luck. I see the rewards are at random, and roulette wheel is just like a lucky wheel. But what about the tickets? The host can gain tickets by completing the quest given by the system. Different tickets grant different rewards. Bronze ticket grants random attributes. Silver ticket grants random skills. Golden ticket grants the ability to copy random talent of any player in the world, and diamond ticket grants other attributes, skills and talents excluding football. Note: the host can only gain the talent of the players who are currently playing or have played professionally. The future players will not be included. I understand everything mentioned by the system, but I can't understand that diamond ticket part. A player needs other abilities beside football as he/she progresses forward. For example, he/she would need to speak multiple languages, deal with press and media, etc. And thus host can draw other skills from the diamond ticket to make the host's life more easier. Oh, I get it now. Indeed, to have a successful career in football, the player needs to tackle many things beside football as well. Many players in Europe fail to live up to their potential due to language barriers after all. He finally felt like that he understood the working mechanism of the roulette wheel. However, he was getting extremely sleepy due to the day's exhausting events. Unable to keep his eyes open, he fell asleep while reading the descriptions provided by the system. Even after enrolling to Ukami Elementary School, the orientation for the new students would start after 2 weeks, and thus, he'd have to wait for another 2 weeks to finally attend the school. In the meantime, he continued to practice diligently by himself. With the training equipments sponsored by the school, he could train even more effectively than before. Hiro, come fast, or else we'll be late for school. His mother yelled from downstairs. While his mother was yelling, he stood in front of the posters. Looking at the murals of the famous footballers, he whispered, "Wait for me. Someday I'll catch up to you. Are you coming, or do I have to come to you?" Sensing danger, he grabbed his backpack and ran downstairs. But regardless, he still got scolded by his mother. "Just why do you always get late? It's your first day at school, and you're already getting late." He reached the school at exactly 7:55 a.m., just 5 minutes before the beginning of orientation. Since the people of Japan are punctual people, most of them had already entered the school, and thus, he couldn't see anybody besides him in front of the gate. And as he walked towards the gate, his mother held his hands and whispered while revealing a warm, gentle smile. "Do your best." Seeing her smile, he couldn't stop himself from hugging her. He wrapped his arms around her and hugged her tightly. "I was really worried seeing you mature at such a young age." His mother's voice shook as she exclaimed her worry. Even without looking at her face, he could clearly feel the tears in her face. For past few months, his actions were more of an adult than a child. And even though his parents didn't show any changes, they were still worried about his changes. Even though he was a 27-year-old from inside, but he still had an appearance of a 5-year-old kid. And no parent in the world would want their kid to act mature from an early age when they should be acting immature. "I'm sorry for making you worried, Mom." He apologized while squeezing her even more tightly. "It's all right. Just remember, no matter how much you change, you're still going to be my little Hiro." She stroked his hair gently as she reassured Hiro that no matter how much he'd change, he'd still be their kid. They stayed like that for a while. Ding, dong. The school bell rang all of a sudden. "You should probably go now." She pulled him apart and asked him to leave. While wiping off the tears from his face, he nodded his head. "Bye-bye. I'll pick you up later in the evening. Do your best." Finally, after a mother-son moment, she sent him off. As he walked towards the gate, she kept her gaze fixated at him. "Children do grow within a blink of an eye," she whispered with a smile on her face. For the whole time when they were hugging each other, the guard was keeping his gaze fixated at them. He knew that Hiro was going to be late, but he still didn't want to disturb them, and thus, he let them be. Even when the gates were closed, he didn't question Hiro for being late. He simply let him in, without asking any questions. Chapter 15, Seniors versus Newbies. Chatter, chatter. Just as he walked inside the auditorium where the orientation for the new students was being held, he noticed a huge crowd of students. Most of the students were gathered in groups, while only few were standing alone. The students who were gathered in groups were cheerfully conversing with each other, while the students who were all alone looked really anxious. He shook his head from left to right, but there wasn't even a single person whom he was familiar with. Every faces were new to him. Even in his previous life, he didn't have many friends. "Sigh, guess I'll be alone this time as well," he murmured. Just then one of the students made her way towards the stage and announced, "All of the students are requested to stand in queue of their respective classes." After the announcement, everybody started to form a queue. However, he looked absolutely clueless. He didn't have any idea about which of the queues in front of him belonged to his class. Maybe I missed the earlier announcement because I arrived late. He wondered if he had missed some earlier announcement because of his delay. To save himself from embarrassment, he quickly joined the queue, which was close to him. As everybody lined up in a queue, the principal made his way towards the stage. "Good morning, students. I'm Miyamoto Takumi, the principal of Ukami Elementary School." After introducing himself, the principal began to talk about the history of the school, and for a while the lecture continued. Hiro started to get bored by the boring lecture of principal. Out of boredom, he started to wander his eyes. As he wandered his eyes, he noticed that he wasn't the only one who was getting bored by the principal's lecture. But even so, nobody dared to make a single noise. While wandering his eyes, he caught a glimpse of a familiar face. Far in the left corner, a student with a ridiculously tall height caught his attention. Wasn't he the keeper of the school's football team? But what was his name again? Despite remembering his face, he forgot his name. Our school focuses both on the academics and extracurricular activities, and our school offers a wide range of clubs. So students are encouraged to join one within a week's time. And before we end the orientation, I'd like to add one more thing. Welcome to Ukami Elementary School. Finally, after 15-20 minutes, the principal ended his lecture and dismissed the students. Nothing much happened during the school hours. Neither did he interact with anybody, nor did anybody approach him. It was a peaceful day. Ding, dong. At exactly 3 p.m., the school ended. "Before you go, make sure to visit your respective clubs," the teacher exclaimed while collecting his books. As soon as the teacher left the classroom, he dashed outside. He was the first student to leave his classroom. Since it was his first day of school, he didn't pack his books. Instead, his bag contained his cleats and jersey. He might have not remembered most of the things regarding the school, but he didn't forget where the ground was located and where he needed to change his clothes. "Why's nobody here yet?" he mumbled as he stood in front of the pitch, all alone. "Oh, you're here quite early." The same guy from the time of his trial who helped the coach with the trial appeared behind him. "Hello, I'm Takahashi Hiro." He bowed his head as he introduced himself. "I know about your identity. By the way, I'm Eamon Honda, the assistant coach of Ukami Elementary School. It'll take a while for them to show up on the pitch. So why don't you warm up for a while?" Honda suggested. As suggested by Honda, he began to stretch his body. After stretching, he started to run around the pitch. Eamon Honda, where have I heard that name? While jogging, he wondered why that name felt so familiar. Right, isn't he the future coach of U21 team of Japan? He finally remembered about Honda's identity. Even though he never made it to national team in his previous life, He kept tab of everyone who made significant impact in the national team. And Amin Honda was one of the person who brought a change in Japanese football. At just 37 years of age, he'd coached the under-21 team of Japan. Even though he wouldn't lead the under-21 team of the nation to a major international trophy, they would still finish at high-ranking positions regardless, every time under his guidance. Come over here, Hiro. While he was reminiscing about the identity of Coach Honda, he heard the voice of Coach Miura calling out his name. He was so engrossed in his thoughts that he didn't even realize that he had been running for more than 20 minutes all alone. But finally, after hearing the voice of Coach Miura, he returned back to his senses. Huff, huff. Who's that guy? A newbie? Isn't he that guy who demolished our keeper completely? Other players had already arrived in the pitch. They were all dressed in school's jersey and were chattering among themselves. Okay, everyone gather up. The coach ordered everyone to gather around him. The senior players started to gather in a circle around the coach. However, they didn't leave any space for the newbies. Today, I'd like to introduce the newbies who will be joining our team. Hiro, Sasaki, Jin, Akashi, and Kin come forward. Along with him, the coach called out for 4 other players. Jin looked quite familiar among others. Nice to meet you. I'm Jin from Class 1B. I like to play as a striker. Please take care of me. I'm Akashi from Class 1C. I play as a defensive midfielder. Please take care of me. I'm Kin from Class 1A. My position is goalkeeper. Please take care of me. I'm Sasaki, also from Class 1A. I can play any role aside from the goalkeeper. Please take care of me. All 4 of them introduced themselves, but every single one of them looked extremely anxious, and only Hiro was left. After they finished their introduction, Hiro stepped forward and began to introduce himself. Unlike the previous 4, he wasn't nervous even a bit. After all, to him, they were all a bunch of kids. Nice to meet you. I'm Takahashi Hiro from Class 1B. I like to play as a playmaker. Pleasure to make your acquaintance. Please look after me. He bowed his head while introducing himself. Hee huh. As they finished their introduction, Hiro could vividly hear the faint laughs of the other senior players. Okay, that's all for the introduction. As our tradition, we'll now play a welcome match between the newcomers and the seniors. Since there are only 5 newcomers, we'll play a mini game of 5v5. The coach announced. It's not fair. How can he make us face against the senior squad on our first day? The other 4 newbies started to whine. Fear was vivid in their eyes. And by no means, he thought that they could stand a chance against the senior squads. When the players admit defeat even before the start of the game, they're more than likely to lose the game. However, unlike them, he was determined to win against the senior team even if he had to do it all by himself. Beep. The game started with Kin as the goalkeeper, Sasaki and Akashi as defenders, finally Hiro and Jin as the forwards. Since the game was played 5v5, it was played only in one half of the pitch with many posts. What's this? Why isn't the coach playing that tall goalkeeper? Hiro mumbled as he witnessed Mark standing in the sidelines. As Jin was charging the ball forward, the ball got stolen from him and he quickly lost position. The senior players didn't even give them a chance to defend as they smoothly passed through Sasaki and Akashi. Kin proved to be useless against the senior players as well. He conceded the goal from between his legs in less than a minute of the starting. Don't mind. We can still do it. Hiro tried to encourage his teammates. However, they continued to make mistakes. Jin was extremely overconfident. Even though he got his ball stolen many times, he didn't stop charging the ball forward all by himself. Pass. Hiro shouted. However, Jin ignored his calls and continued to attack all by himself. The senior players rushed at him and quickly cornered him. Pass. Hiro kept on shouting, but Jin kept on ignoring him. Jin was playing extremely selfish and only wanted to score all by himself. He didn't pass and tried to dribble past the opponent defenders. But this time as well, the ball got stolen from him. He couldn't retain the ball. What is he doing? Don't he know how to pass the ball? Akashi exclaimed in frustration. Jin's selfish play costed them another goal. Why don't you pass the ball? Akashi walked towards Jin and grabbed his collar. Beep. Honda-san blew the whistle to warn Akashi of his behavior. TCH. Akashi clicked his tongue as he let go of Jin's collar. It hadn't even been 10 minutes, and they were already down by 2 goals. Chapter 16. Who's that keeper? As the game progressed, their form kept on deteriorating. And Hiro, who was all by himself, couldn't do anything at all. Once again, he found himself in the same precarious situation, just like he did during the futsal tournament. Hiro took a peek at the faces of his teammates. Most of them showed no concern at all, and it looked like they had already given up on the match. However, Akashi's face said otherwise. He hadn't given up on the match. Oh, there's still somebody who hasn't given up on the match. Hiro murmured. From the moment he landed his eyes on Akashi, he had every reason to keep a distance from him. Spiky hair, eyes shaped like fish, a face that looked extremely tensed, and to top it all, he had a very loud voice. Akashi's appearance and his manner of speech gave him the impression of the typical hot-headed guy that appears in most of the manga and anime. After conceding the second goal in less than 10 minutes, it was already difficult for them to make a comeback. But having uncooperative teammate in the team made the matter even worse. Thus, even though he reluctantly wanted to keep a distance from Akashi, he didn't have any other choice but to depend on Akashi if he wanted to win the match. Beep. On the 15th minute of the game, they conceded another goal, and this time as well, he didn't even get to touch the ball. Oh, aye. Huh? What do you want, shorty? Akashi replied in a harsh tone. He seemed extremely agitated. Do you want to win the match? So what if I want to win the match? I can help you to win the match. Go away. I'm not in the mood to joke. Akashi grunted and turned around. Just pass me the ball once, and if I can't score the goal then I'll play as a defender instead. Hiro yelled. However, Akashi didn't respond at all and went over to his position. Due to the unresponsiveness of Akashi, Hiro had no idea if he was willing to cooperate or not. Beep. Unsure about whether or not Akashi would cooperate with him, he had no choice but to trust him. With the sound of the whistle, Hiro kicked the ball backwards, towards Akashi instead of Jin. Please pass me the ball. Please pass me the ball. As he dashed forward, he started to pray. He looked behind him to see whether the ball was coming towards him or not. To his surprise, the ball did come towards him. After he passed the ball towards Akashi, he dashed towards the opponent's goal without looking back, hoping he'd somehow get the ball back. After the ball was played towards Akashi, the opponent players rushed towards Akashi to steal the ball. Just then, as the opponent players were drawn towards Akashi, he kicked the ball hard towards the direction where Hiro was running. Thank you, Akashi, for trusting me. But why do I feel that he kicked the ball a little too hard? Wait, it'd definitely go out of bounds if I don't trap it in one touch. Even though Akashi did pass the ball to Hiro, he hit the ball a little too hard. However, Hiro still tried really hard to reach the ball. After attaining some height, the ball began to drop rapidly. Step, step, step. Making full use of his hamstrings and foot muscles, he sprinted towards the ball with all his might. However, he was still some distance away from the ball, and no matter how much he tried, to everyone it looked like that the ball would go out of bounds. Contrary to everybody's expectation, he leaped forward while stretching his right leg. Almost at the periphery of the boundary line, his toe touched the ball. The ball bounced behind him over his head as it touched his feet. What the F? He saved that ball? Thwack. Even though he managed to save the ball by jumping towards the ball, he couldn't land properly on his feet and crashed against the protective net. The opponent defenders were still far away from the ball, and it would definitely take them some moment to reach the ball. Even though he crashed against the net, he instantly picked himself up and ran towards the ball. Besides him, the opponent keeper was the only other player who was close to the ball, and he didn't waste any time as well. Just like him, the opponent keeper rushed towards the ball as well. Both of them competed for the ball. It seemed like that the keeper would somehow block his course even though he'd get to the ball before the keeper. As the keeper ran towards the ball, he hid his arms behind his back to prevent any possible PK. Hiro was the first one to reach to the ball. However, the keeper caught up to him and stood in front of him to defend against him. Unlike the previous defenders he had faced before, the keeper didn't leave him any space to dribble. His defense looked extremely flawless. Being a keeper, he didn't open his legs, and he was conscious of his left and right side as well. I don't see any space. What should I do now? He began to wonder. Neither could he dribble the ball from his left nor from his right. The keeper had blocked all his route. Just where did a keeper like this come from? His defense is already on par with pros, but I don't remember him. Shouldn't this kind of keeper be playing in national team? For the first time in the match, he looked really anxious. Hiro couldn't figure out the identity of the keeper in front of him. Despite showcasing such an amazing talent, he hadn't heard about him in his previous life. Even Kurosawa Taki, who didn't let in a single shot during the futsal tournament, paled to the comparison of the keeper in front of him. Now I get it why the coach didn't play that tall keeper. He mumbled. While carefully moving the ball forward, he took a peek at the keeper's face. His eyes were glued on the ball at his feet, and he had completely blocked his route. He tried to perform a body feint to misguide the keeper, but the keeper didn't even react a bit. As if the keeper was aware of his tricks, he didn't show any reaction to his feints. Just then he noticed a gap between the keeper's legs. He tapped the ball lightly, but the keeper was quick to react. He lunged his left leg and closed the gap instantly. The keeper deliberately let a gap in his legs for Hiro to try to pass the ball between his legs. And just like he predicted, Hiro indeed tried to pass the ball between his legs. But to his surprise, the ball rolled over his head instead. Hiro kicked the ball lightly with his left leg, but before the ball reached the keeper's legs, he gently tapped beneath the ball with his right feet and chipped the ball above the keeper's head. The keeper, who was already on the ground, couldn't react to the uncertain move of Hiro and was left dumbfounded. Before the ball dropped, Hiro hit the ball in mid-air and scored a brilliant volley goal. Beep. Yeah. Woohoo. Unbelievable. Everybody in the pitch was stunned by his play. Nobody could believe their eyes. They looked at him with disbelief. Even his teammates were having a hard time to digest the fact that they had scored a goal against the senior team. While everybody were cheering, Hiro ran towards the post. He then took the ball out and ran towards the center of the pitch while carrying the ball. He didn't want to waste any time to cheer as his team was still down by 2 goals. Even though he scored a goal against the senior team, they were still losing the match by 3-1 score. You freaking did it. Akashi exclaimed in ecstasy. Yes, but we still need 3 more goals to win the match. Hiro replied. Yeah, that's right. We're going to win the match. Akashi clenched his fist and stretched his hand towards Hiro. What do you want? He inquired while looking at the fist of Akashi. Hiro didn't realize that Akashi simply wanted to do a fist bomb. Akashi didn't reply anything and kept on pointing his fist towards Hiro. Oh, I see. Hiro finally realized the meaning behind Akashi's gesture. He then gently tapped Akashi's fist with his fist and performed a fist bomb. Thwack! Let's score 3 more goals and win the match. He exclaimed as he placed the ball at the kickoff position. Beep! The opponent team started the kickoff. And from the moment they started the kickoff, they didn't make any mistakes. Unlike Hiro's team, their coordination was top-notch. Nobody among them acted selfish. They were all well organized. And every time his teammates would rush towards the ball, they would immediately pass the ball to other player. The game of cat and mouse continued for a while. The ball was the mouse and they were the cats. Every time they tried to take hold of the mouse would run away from them. Chapter 17. Off the ball. As they tried to snatch the ball away from the senior players, they only exhausted themselves. Every single player in the senior team played so brilliantly that they couldn't even get near to the ball. Unable to snatch the ball, they began to man-mark every senior players. But man-marking only works when each and every individual is capable of stopping the respective players that they are man-marking. And in terms of overall ability, it was evident from the moment they stepped on the pitch that they lacked far behind to the senior players. Even though Hiro surpassed every other player in the field in terms of skills and potential, he couldn't do anything at all. Marking him as a threat, the senior players didn't even let him touch the ball. TCH, they're not even letting me touch the ball. Hiro clicked his tongue in frustration. The opponent players would pass the ball back to the keeper every time Hiro rushed towards the player with the ball. As if they were openly admitting that they couldn't take him by themselves, they took absolutely no chance against him. But even after passing the ball back to the keeper, they didn't try to waste time. Instead, the keeper would instantly pass the ball forward and initiate a counterattack. The keeper was playing the role of the anchor who'd control the tempo of the game. Hiro's teammates would once again prove to be absolutely useless against the senior players in terms of individual skills. As the keeper would kick the ball towards their goal, Sasaki would find it troublesome to stop the senior player. Ken would come out of his post to defend the ball and leave the post wide open. Taking advantage of the situation, the senior players would simply pass the ball between themselves to score in an open post instead of trying to dribble past the keeper. At the 34th minute of the match, Ken would once again make the same mistake of leaving the post as he did many times during the match, and it would nearly cost them another goal. However, Akashi would go on to block the ball with his face. After passing through Sasaki and Ken, the opponent player would shoot the ball in an open post. Just then Akashi would jump sideways and take the shot on his face. He would successfully manage to block the shot. The ball would then fall on Sasaki's feet after the rebound. Sasaki would quickly get cornered as the opponent striker would rush towards him. Luckily, Hiro, who dropped deep to defend against the opponent's attack, would find himself near to Sasaki. Despite being pressured by the opponent striker, Sasaki would pass the ball to Hiro. And at 35th minute of the match, Hiro would go on to score his second goal against the senior team. The senior team would continue with their tactic even after conceding the second goal. With that tactic of theirs, they would nearly seal the match at the last minute of the match with another goal. However, Goddess of Luck would do them real bad as the shot hit by their striker would go on to hit the goalpost, and once again, they would concede another goal on rebound, which would cost them a crucial goal. With that final goal, the score of the match would read as such: Team Senior 3, Team Newbie 3. The game would end up in tie. And just like that, Hiro would go on to score 3 goals against the senior team and help his team to pull out a draw against the senior team. After the end of the match, later in that day at around 9:47 p.m. Arc. Such a tiring day. While lying on his bed, he tried to recall the events which took place during the day. I need to work on my off-the-ball movements. After analyzing his play, he noticed a fatal flaw in his playstyle. Even though he was phenomenal when he had the ball in his feet, he sucked really bad during the moment when he didn't have the ball in his feet. Just by keeping him away from the ball, the senior players were able to completely nullify him. What do the star players do when they don't have the ball in their feet? He began to wonder. He tried to recall as much information of the future as possible. In his mind, he played several matches and tried to analyze the movements of the world's best players. But since the camera never focused solely on the individual, he couldn't get much information from the several matches he analyzed in his mind. However, while he was recalling about the playstyle of the several world-class player, he noticed something. Even though it looked extremely trivial, but each and every player he analyzed in his mind had one thing in common. They were always in search of space, and they always positioned themselves in the space where the probability of getting the ball was maximum. Andreas Messi would always turn his head in search of the most optimal route towards the goal. Christian Romero would always look for the space where he can get the ball. Even if they didn't have the ball in their feet, they'd always be searching and scanning. The world-class players would always be in search of the space and weakness to exploit. Okay, I'll work on my off-the-ball movements before the first professional match. He mumbled. After analyzing countless matches, he fell asleep. Even though he wanted to analyze more matches, his young body couldn't keep up with his thinking. On top of playing a match, he also completed the daily mission given by the system. The first professional match of the national tournament was about a month away, and within 2 weeks, they would find out their first opponent. Since the tournament was played in a knockout format, there was no second chance. The tournament was all or nothing. Chapter 18, Deep Lying Playmaker. March 25, 2015. A week before the commencement of the All-Japan Interschool Football Tournament, the day when the tie sheet of the tournament would get published. As usual, players of Ukami Elementary School were going through a rough training session in preparation for the tournament. Just then, assistant coach Honda made his way towards the pitch while carrying some papers in his hands. Beep. With the sound of the whistle, everybody stopped the training. The sudden stoppage of the training confused everybody. All right, everyone gather up. Honda-sen commanded everybody to gather around. And with that announcement, everybody started to gather around the coaches. Is it for the tie sheet? Players began to question each other. While they gathered around the coach, Coach Miura started to speak. The tie sheet for the tournament is out. Pay attention now as I'll be announcing our first opponent, and I'll also be announcing the starting players for the tournament. With that announcement, everybody started to get anxious. While there were few people on the pitch who maintained their composure and didn't seem bothered by the revelation, most of the players seemed extremely flustered and anxious. Please God, let me make it to the team. I'd be satisfied even if I can play as a substitute. The players started to chatter among themselves. Silence, Honda-sen yelled. After that, nobody dared to make a single noise. Before I announce the name of the team which we'll be playing against, I've got a good news and a bad news. Good news is that just like our school, we'll be facing against a newbie school who have entered the tournament for the first time in our first match, and woo! Before the coach could even finish his sentence, the players started to cheer very loudly. They celebrated as if they had already won the first match of the tournament. Silence. Let the coach finish his sentence first. Once again, Honda-sen yelled at them. Sigh. Don't celebrate too early. The bad news is that we're placed in the same group as Karasuno Elementary School. Huh? What? The smiles on their face quickly faded away as they heard about the announcement made by Coach Miura that they were placed in the same group as Karasuno Elementary School. Okay, let's keep it low for now. We've prepared enough, so let's believe in our efforts. Coach Miura tried to raise the morale of the players, which was already crumbling just after hearing that they've been placed in the same group as one of the favorites of the tournament. After that, Coach Miura gestured Honda-san to come closer and whispered something in his ear softly. As soon as Coach Miura finished his sentence, Honda-san stormed outside the pitch. Before we end our training, I'll announce the players who are going to be our starting 11. Those whose names are called, step forward. In goal, we have Mark Yudo from Class 6B and Kobayashi Endo from Class 4C. Kobayashi Endo was the same keeper who he had faced against during the match between the senior team and the junior team. Unlike Mark, Endo was kinda short. Endo was about the same height as Hiro. However, his reflexes were top-notch. His playstyle was similar to that of Iker Casillas. Center backs, Daichi Kamada from Class 4B, Shinsuke Nagura from Class 3A, Yamamoto Kasuke from Class 5B, Yamazaki Kinto from Class 6A, and finally Nobara Akashi from Class 1C. Right backs, Gagamaru Jin from Class 2A, and Iori Sato from Class 3B. Left backs, Wataru Lemon from Class 5A, and Kuzakabe So from Class 6B. Midfielders, Ito Rin from Class 4B, Kozai Otsuka from Class 3B, Ashime Suzuki from Class 5A, Asahi Kwan from Class 6B, Ryusuke Ron from Class 6A, and finally Takahashi Hiro from Class 1B. Forwards, Sohei Sato from Class 6B, Suzuki Shiro from Class 4A, and finally Kurosaki Kuro from Class 3B. All of these players have been selected as the starting players for the tournament ahead, but the list could change anytime, so don't take your position for granted. Even those whose names were not called today have an equal chance to make it into the team, so don't feel sad about it. Do you understand? The players whose names were not called looked extremely gloomy. Some even started to cry in the pitch, while some started to whine and complain. Why are those first years selected and not us? One of the senior player complained. Because you lack the skill. Coach Miura bluntly stated the truth in his face. And those who are not satisfied with my decisions are free to leave the team. To control the tantrums of the unselected players, Coach Miura announced that anyone who was not satisfied with his decision was allowed to leave the club. So are you going to leave the club? He then pointed his finger at the senior player who was throwing a tantrum. The senior player quietly took a step back and shut his mouth. After that, nobody dared to speak anything against his decision. The team mostly consisted of the senior players, and the only first years who even got the shot at the starting 11 were only Akashi and Hiro. After the commotion, the coach adjourned the training. Everybody aside from the starting players were advised to leave the pitch. And as everybody aside from the starting players left the pitch, Coach Miura commanded the starting players to follow him. I can't believe I made it to the team. Akashi whispered in excitement while following the coach. Even though he was only whispering, due to his loud voice, everybody around them could hear him. Sho, don't make noise. Hiro insisted Akashi to keep his mouth shut. Why is he taking us into the hall? Akashi questioned as the coach stopped before the auditorium. Coach Miura took them inside the auditorium. Inside the auditorium, in front of the stage, a projection was being displayed by a projector on a huge white cloth hung in front of the stage. Seeing the projection, everybody bewilderingly stared at the projection ahead. Are we going to watch a movie? Akashi exclaimed in ecstasy. No, you idiot. We're probably here for some video analysis. Video analysis? What is that? While most people would avoid Akashi for his appearance and manner of speech, surprisingly Hiro and Akashi had many things in common with each other. After the first match, Akashi approached him daily and tried to converse with him. At first Hiro felt awkward around him and brushed him off by giving him one-word answers. He expected that he'd stop eventually, but contrary to his expectations, Akashi approached him daily without missing a single day. He'd approach him while heading home. He'd approach him in the cafeteria while eating. He'll even try to converse with him while going to toilet. Even though Akashi followed him basically everywhere, he didn't detect any ill motive from him, and he could feel that he genuinely wanted to befriend him. However, Hiro, who was already 27 years from the inside, thought of Akashi as a little kid instead of a friend. But he didn't want to decline his genuine intentions as well, and thus he befriended Akashi in the end, giving in to his persistence. Although he talked with Akashi as a friend, he considered him more like a little brother than his friend. Okay, now, everybody pay attention. Coach Miura spoke while standing in front of the stage. Now I'll be discussing our tactics, so don't get distracted. Coach Miura then started to discuss tactics with the starting players. The formation they were going to play in the tournament was 4-4-2 diamond. With 2 forwards at the top, for midfielders and 4 defenders, Hiro was assigned the role of attacking midfielder. Even though Akashi got selected in the team, he wasn't selected in the starting 11. And in that whole lineup, Hiro was the sole first year. Around the time when the coach revealed the starting 11, he could vividly feel the cold gazes of the senior players. But those gazes weren't the gaze of jealousy. Instead, it was a gaze initiating a competition. Hiro, even though you'll be playing as an attacking midfielder, I want you to drop deep to receive the ball and play as a deep-lying playmaker. Do you understand? Yes, sir. The coach wanted Hiro to play as a deep-lying playmaker and dominate the midfield. And just like that, after explaining the tactics to the players who were selected for the tournament, Coach Miura adjourned the meeting. Lucky you, you'll get to play in the starting 11. While they were changing their clothes, Akashi playfully punched him. What's lucky about it? Do you think that I don't deserve my role? Hiro returned the punch and questioned Akashi. Don't joke. I don't know who'll deserve it, if not you. But even though I've been drafted into the official team, I don't know if coach will even use me or not. Akashi frowned. Don't worry, you'll definitely get your opportunity, so keep on improving. Also, you're much softer than you appear. Ha ha. Hiro chuckled as he consoled Akashi. Chapter 19. Too young to make money. Call. By the time they finished dressing up, the sun was already on the verge of setting down. Far in the horizon, as the flocks of ravens flew right in front of the setting sun, the slanting rays of the setting sun gave a warm orange tinge to the sky. And as he was immersing himself into the picturesque landscapes around him, a silhouette of a person became vivid at a certain distance away from the gate. Unable to take his gaze away from the ethereal scenery in front of him, he kept on staring at the familiar person ahead. Just then a warm gust of gentle sea breeze knocked the sun hat from her head. She then turned around to pick her fallen hat. And as she picked her hat, she looked at him and she stretched her arms out while revealing a gentle smile. Let's go home. She spoke in a soft tone. The bright rays of sun coming from behind her blinded him. But even so, he could vividly see her face. Dressed in a white one-piece, the warm rays of setting sun further highlighted her beautiful facial features. Until this day, he never realized just how beautiful his mother was. After the death of his father, she lost the glow in her face from overexertion. And as time passed, her once beautiful face started developing wrinkles. While he was complaining about his life, she worked overtime to make sure he was well fed. Working multiple jobs, paying the bills, taking care of his studies and footballing needs, she never complained once. As he was staring at her beautiful face, a particular memory flashed before his eyes. When he was 17 years old, just after finishing high school, while playing football with his friends, his teammates started to show off their new cleats which their parents bought for them for graduating high school. Being quite young, he couldn't help but feel jealous. And due to jealousy, he too asked his mother to buy him new cleats. She sternly declined his request, but he kept on pestering her to buy new cleats despite her refusal. While she was already having troubles with paying the bills, he only added fuel to the burning fire by pestering her to buy a new cleat for him. While he was stubbornly asking for new cleats, he didn't even notice that she had been wearing the same clothes for years and years. He couldn't even remember when was the last time that he had seen her in new clothes. Be it some special occasions, or even his graduation, she never bought anything for herself, but yet still she provided him with everything that he needed. Even though she couldn't fulfill all his desires, she still fulfilled most of his needs. Reminiscing such moments made him regret about his course of actions. He felt guilty. While she provided him with everything, he couldn't do anything for her. He couldn't even buy a new set of clothes for her for all those years. Suddenly his heart felt heavy and his eyes moistened. Without even realizing, tears started welling down his eyes. He then ran towards her with eyes full of tears. And as he got close to her, he threw himself in her arms and hugged her tightly. "Eri, what's the matter? Did something happen in school?" she asked while gently stroking his back with her hands. However, he didn't reply anything at all. He only tightened his grip as she stroked his back. He must have not been selected for the team, she guessed. She tried to console him. Finally, after some time, he loosened his grip. "Shall we head home now?" she asked as he loosened his grip. But still, he didn't reply anything at all. She tried to shake him off, but there was no reaction from him whatsoever. Just then his arms fell down involuntarily. Did he fall asleep? She chuckled as she carried him up. And indeed, he had fallen asleep in her arms. Even though he fell asleep, she didn't wake him up and instead carried him all the way to the station. Did he fall asleep? His father questioned as they exited the train. While he was sleeping peacefully in her arms inside the train, his mother phoned his father and informed about his condition to his father. She then asked him to pick them up in the station. "Shh, don't talk loudly. Let him sleep," she whispered. Okay, he whispered back. His father took him from her arms and carried him. "The training must have been really exhausting today," Takashi whispered. "I guess so." As if he was unconscious, he didn't even notice when he fell asleep. His parents carried him carefully from the school to home without waking him up. At 1:43 a.m., later in the night as he woke up from his dream, he found himself lying in his bed. "Ugh, when did I get here?" he mumbled as he woke up in the night. "Where's Mom? The last thing I remember is hugging her in front of the school gate. Was everything perhaps a dream?" he bewilderingly questioned. Growl. All of a sudden, his stomach started to make weird noises. Why do I feel hungry all of a sudden? He hadn't eaten anything since lunchtime. To let him sleep peacefully, his parents didn't wake him up for dinner. He then got out from his bed and started to walk towards the kitchen. There must be something in the refrigerator, he mumbled as he tried to open up the refrigerator. Expecting he might wake up and feel hungry, his parents had stored a cake and an apple juice in the refrigerator. Whoa, there's cake today. He was baffled by the sight of cake in the refrigerator. Rarely his mother let him eat sweet things. She considered sweets unhealthy and therefore forbade him to eat sweets. Cake being a sweet was no exception as well. No, I must have passed out in her arms, he mumbled while chewing the cake. He couldn't think of anything else beside passing out in her arms to explain why he couldn't remember anything after hugging her. While reminiscing of the moment before he passed out, he remembered about the things he thought while hugging her. And once again those thoughts saddened him. "Yosh, let's earn a lot of money and buy her everything she desires," he yelled enthusiastically. Bark, bark. The dogs in the neighborhood started to bark listening to his loud yells in the middle of the night. "Ops, gotta keep it low or else it won't end up good if Mom finds me awake," he mumbled as he chugged the bottle of juice in a single gulp. After eating, he headed towards his bed. He closed his eyes, but he couldn't sleep for some reason. Unable to sleep, he started to think of ways to make money. Even though I know the future events, I can't make use of it. I only know of the major events which will take in football, and I can't even remember most of the Champions League finals. But even knowing those events won't change anything at all. After all, betting is illegal in Japan. And even if it were legal, I wouldn't be allowed to bet after all, I'm still too young. Human mind is programmed in such a way that it forgets most of the things if there's no repetition whatsoever as time progresses. So it was only natural for Hiro to forget most of the event which took place because it had been a lot of time since he last remembered those events. The events like Champions League finals and other matches which happened a long time ago, he couldn't remember it even if he wanted to remember. So betting is out of our list to make money. What if I write novels? Another idea flashed in his mind. Oh shit, right. I never read a novel before. I should have listened to my friends back then. He exasperated. In his previous life, many teammates in his team suggested him to read novels. But he never paid any attention to novels and brushed off their suggestions. What if I teach football? He thought of teaching football as a means of earning money. But he forgot that he himself was still a child, once again. Oh shit, right. Who'd want to learn football from a 6-year-old? Ha ha ha. He laughed awkwardly. Arg, I can't think of anything. Just how the hell should I make money? He screamed in frustration. Even after thinking for a while, he couldn't come up with any means of making money. He was too young to make money legally. Arg, let's just forget about making money for now and focus on football. Finally, he gave up on the thoughts of making money after failing to come up with ideas to make money. Just what time is it now? He reached for his drawer beside his bed to take out his phone. Just as he reached for his phone, something sparked in his mind. Phone. Chapter 20, YouTube channel. Just as he was about to give up on the thoughts of making money, something sparked in his mind as he took hold of his phone. What if I start making content related to football and post it on social media sites? I'm sure that I can get tons of views since I'm still a kid. And people love kids demonstrating something extraordinary. It might take some time, but I've got plenty of time in my hands right now. So given the situation, it's the perfect idea for making money. And if I'll get lucky, professional scouts might take notice of me as well, which will further help me with my goals. But I'll probably need someone to take my videos. Just when he finally thought of a good idea to make money, he encountered another problem. He was really bad at making videos. Aside from playing football, he didn't have any talent at all. And football was the only thing he was good at. What if I asked my parents to do it for me? He wondered. They'll probably decline my request. They're busy with their jobs, so I'll have to think of someone else. But for now, let's sleep. Ring, ring, ring. The sound of the alarm clock woke him up early in the morning at 5 a.m. Ugh, it's morning already? I want to sleep a little more. He exclaimed in half-asleep state. Even though he wanted to sleep a little more, he woke up regardless. For past few months, it had been his daily routine to wake up early in the morning to train. 247, 248, 249, and finally 250. Why is that kid shooting ball early in the morning? One of the passerby inquired. Maybe he's training to become a professional football player. Another passerby replied. Oh, that kid. It must be your first time jogging out here. For past 7 or 8 months, he had been coming to the park daily with his ball and training all by himself. He's pretty much dedicated. Another passerby who was jogging in the park interrupted the two passerbys' conversation. While kids his age are sleeping right now, he's here working hard for his dreams. His parents must be really proud of him. Alas, if only my kids were as hardworking as him. An old lady who was jogging in the park joined in the discussion between all those previous passerbys. Even though he was still a kid, his neighborhood was quite safe for kids to go out early in the morning. And even though he used to get up early in the morning, as soon as he used to reach home after exercising, he'd throw himself in bed and fall asleep instantly. Today wasn't any different as well. As soon as he got home, he knocked himself into the bed and fell asleep. Wake up, Hiro. Wake up fast, or else you'll be late for school. His mother yelled. Arg, let me sleep a little more. He replied in his sleepy voice and pulled the blanket over his head and covered himself wholly. However, she kept on shaking him to wake him up. Seeing his stubbornness to wake up, she pulled the blanket in one fell swoop. And as usual, once again he got scolded by his mother. As if his day would turn out incomplete without her early morning nagging. It had kind of become something like a ritual for him to wake up to her nagging every morning. Slam. As usual, you're late. While walking towards his classroom, Akashi smacked his back playfully. Yeah, I woke up kinda late today. Hiro replied while rubbing his back with his hands. Did you watch yesterday's El Clasico? Akashi inquired. It was yesterday? Hiro bewilderingly replied. Just like Hiro, Akashi loved to watch European football. Surely this time Real Madrid's gonna win both La Liga and Champions League. Akashi proudly exclaimed. Akashi was a supporter of Real Madrid and idolized Christian Romero, who played for Real Madrid. Having the knowledge of the future, he knew exactly who'd win the titles. In 2015 was the season of Barcelona. They'd go on to win La Liga, Copa del Rey, and Champions League in that season. Dream on. It's gonna be Barcelona who'll win both La Liga and Champions League. Hiro replied back. With that reply, both of them got into an argument. Most of the time, they got along pretty well with each other, but every time the topic of their favorite club was brought, they used to get into an argument. Even though Hiro was quite mature from inside, he would still argue when the topic of the club he supported was brought onto the table. You kids, don't you have classes? One of the faculty member yelled while they were arguing with each other in the hallway. Hearing his yell, both of them headed towards their respective classrooms. Later in the evening, after the daily training ended, while they were preparing to head home, Hiro called out for Akashi. Akashi, don't you want to improve your game? Hiro inquired. I do want to improve my gameplay, but I don't know how to improve my gameplay. Akashi frowned. I can help you with it, but you need to help me with something as well. Hiro proposed a deal to Akashi. In return for teaching him football, Hiro wanted Akashi to shoot his videos. Akashi reluctantly agreed to his proposal. Since he knew what Hiro was capable of, he didn't doubt his ability to teach him football. And just like that, both of them agreed to help each other. New quest unlocked. Help Akashi to make his debut in the tournament. Reward on completion, golden ticket. Punishment on failure, deduction of random stat. A quest unlocked all of a sudden. The reward is very tempting, but the punishment is really harsh as well. All of a sudden, a quest unlocked. And surprisingly, the system offered a golden roulette ticket for the reward on completion. He does have potential, but I'm sure he won't get to play in the first match. And if we lose the first match, the quest is basically all over. Why are you staring at me like that? Akashi inquired. Without even realizing, he was contemplatively staring at Akashi with a weird expression in his face. I was thinking of how I can grind you. Grind me. Yeah, I was thinking of the training method to help you improve. Hee. Hiro revealed an evil smirk as he finished his sentence. Somehow I'm having a moment about this. Akashi gulped his saliva. Okay, then let's meet at school ground this Saturday at 5 p.m. School ground. But will the teacher even allow us to use the school ground during holiday? Akashi questioned. During holidays, nobody was allowed to use the school facilities. However, Hiro, who was sponsored by the school, was allowed to use the ground even during holidays. Don't worry about that. Just meet me at the ground this Saturday at 5 p.m. Hiro assured. And just like that, Akashi agreed to shoot videos of Hiro in exchange for teaching him football. Fast forward to Saturday. Hiro made Akashi to shoot the ball 500 times. However, he couldn't even shoot 200 times. Everything went well at first, but as he progressed forward, Akashi's legs got heavy, and he couldn't even lift his legs properly. Hiro made him do the sets of exercises given by the system. But unlike Hiro, Akashi couldn't even complete 3 sets of the exercises. And as per the deal between them, Akashi shot Hiro's videos after the training. Later at night, Hiro was fiddling around with his phone while lying in his bed. Now then, what should I name the channel? Hiro started to wonder about the name of his channel. He was going to upload the video shot by Akashi in his YouTube channel, but he couldn't think of a name for his channel. It should work. The name of my channel will be